Shall wager for breaking it down. We're here for game number 2. Game number 1 brought us a fantastic victory, but Canada was able to steal the show with the 6 eliminations, pushing himself up. 17 points is now the marker at the top, but again, it's all about who's able to recover. We've seen that matches 2 and 3 are generally where we really get the shakeout, so this one's going to be a big one, Ozzy.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a big one. And I can already see down that southeast getting real congested, where I'm guessing that rotating boat is down. Those 2 players fly out there and contested, and that southeast is where a lot of this is going to shake up. You've got the rotating boat there now. You also have the caddy corner loop, which we've seen. I mean, I kind of want to see Zabe run it back with the caddy onto this game just so Shy can get the last laugh. I love the picks of the casters. I hate making my personal picks because apparently I am terrible at them. I curse everyone that I pick, but it's so much fun watching these games, looking for trying to root for someone. You got to pick a favorite, right? If you guys are new to Fortnite, you're just tuning in, pick a player, make them your favorite, learn something about them. It makes it so much fun when you pick someone and you cheer them on from home. Miro could be your favorite too, as he is a very, very aggressive, entertaining player to watch, and he's stealing a lot of the spotlight here over this weekend, Sundown. He has been on cam a lot with his aggressive plays.
He's been on camera a lot. Being able to just make it consistently into the end game is going to warrant you screen time, particularly as you're able to rack up points over and over again. And hey, when you're in 4 out of 4 finals and you're one of the 3 players, you're gonna get some time on camera, man. Clicks has been up there as well, but now you can see closing in, trying to set an ambush on King. King though ready for it right away. Miro though closes the gap, big 70 tag right away, follows it up. And we talked about just how good that tac shotgun is in these early game, or just in general in the box fights, because of the rate of the fire and the options it gives you. You can see Miro putting it to good work here to just hunt down King relentlessly.
Yeah, King's got a legendary charged shotgun, so definitely had the strongest shotgun when you think about legendary versus green variants, but Miro able to pick up the elimination. I'm curious to see. Miro has been running the tac. No, looks like he is going to swap up for the charge. I think just that extra boost in rarity is enough to make Miro want to run it, and that's pretty rough. Getting a legendary shotgun on drop and then losing, that's a pretty big misplay there. Something went wrong. He's going to have to rethink that and rework it, and unluckily or luckily for him, he has over 30 minutes to do so now, so he has to sit this one out and wait for game number 3.
I don't think at any point in time any player will ever call that lucky, being beaten off of the start there on the drop when you have the superior weaponry. That's always a tough situation. As we're on board here with Outcast fired, was the first place finisher in the semifinal for this qualifier, so should have some momentum rolling. Right now he's rolling with that pepper. Has to make a loadout decision here, will opt to drop the chug splashes, and I'm going to say it every single time. You're playing solos right now. 1, you could have used one of those chug splashes for 1 shield, and 2, why leave those for somebody else? Consume those every single time. We saw it in the last game of the player throwing away the crash pads. Don't leave them for somebody else to come and get an opportunity. You have to min-max both for yourself and your impact on other players, and somebody now is going to get either 40 shield right away or something they'll be able to bank on.
I might need to go back and use it if someone gets a beam here, but no, he reacts just in time. This person comes out of the water, just lurks up, pops the head up, and Fire notices it at the very last second. Gets the walls up now. He's going to try and get into this fight. And a really nice crash pad, but no, doesn't go the way intended. We saw that used quite well yesterday. It usually breaks the cone and the floor, and you fall straight into the box, but unfortunately, Fire must have messed it up, but he doesn't mess up the corner, and he does. He phases straight in, and he takes down Fredo. I'm guessing Fredo goes down, and maybe he might actually need to go get those slurp splashes now. Just saying, Sundown. But like you said, more times than not, you need to use what's around you. You need to minimize the strength of the players around you, because just as easily someone could come along and take that now and take a fight with Fired. And I'm surprised to see this few people around Misty. We saw Stretch have 2 dominant performances out of Misty. He actually has won 2 stacked tournament formats, one being day 2 in the round 3 for NA East FNCS qualifiers, and also DreamHack finals he's won out of Misty. So I'm really surprised to see that drop not more contested here today.
Now we're on board here with Apex Reloads, the game 1 winner, currently sitting on 17 points, still 85 players remaining. And if you guys are just joining us on the broadcast, welcome. My name is Sundown, joined here by Aussie Antics. This is game number 2 of the final qualifier for FNCS Solos, Chapter 2, Season 3. This is NA East. Just 85 players left right now, so still 10 left to fall before the first placement. We are still in that first circle, so plenty of looting going on up, people trying to guarantee they get their maximum materials, getting whatever loadouts they can, and then heading towards the center zone, trying to establish some ground. But right now, going back on over, and it's Canada picking a fight here against NutX.
Yeah, this is what Kanata needs to win this one. Had a dominant performance last game, but Kanata is very, very good in these scrappy fights, but he's pushing into Salty to push a fight, so he's feeling confident after last game. Going to try and find these angles, and this is where the charge shotgun does reign supreme for the player on the back foot quite often, because they can sit back here, hold these angles, and fully charge up that charge shotgun, but does have a very, very loud audio cue, so Kanata's going to know that as he gets shot in the back a little bit. We have another player approaching, coming on in, as we also see the scoring format coming on in. If you're not familiar with the scoring format here for today, it's going to be pretty much top 75 gets you 1 point, top 50 gets you 2 points, top 40 gets you 3 points, top 30 gets you 4, top 25 5, top 26, top 15 7, and then after top 10 you're going to get a placement for every single player that goes down, and then the victory royale is going to net you a few extra as well, with every elimination being 1. So essentially 14 eliminations is what you need to get to equal a victory royale. So as much as Kanata had extra eliminations there last game, though, the player in first managed to pick up that very, very needed victory royale, and that's where the gameplay comes in. Are you going to go a bit more aggressive? Are you going to go a bit more passive? We've seen over most of this weekend, courtesy of Prodigy Analytics, that it's about a 70% placement to 30% elimination split for these points for the players that are placing in that top 5, showing that consistency does win out, as Kanata trying to be consistent with a good game 2 after a really, really good game 1.
Another easy way to think about it, if you're struggling in terms of, well, what are the point thresholds going through? This will help you out, right? The first point is granted after 25% of the lobby has gone down. The second point is granted after 50% of the lobby has gone down. After that, every 10 players that fall up until you get to the top 25 will be an additional point. So a point will be granted at top 40 and top 30. Then from top 30 onward until you get to the top 10, every 5 players that fall will be granted a point. So you always want to be looking to kind of make each one of those intervals of 5 and 10 as you're going through, but the big kicker is getting into that top 10 and into the top 3 specifically. That's why you see those players specifically yesterday. Jelty was one who you're like, wow, I haven't really seen him get a ton of eliminations. Well, yeah, but he's getting top 10 every single game there. As we see Unknown doing what Unknown does best and picking up early game eliminations over here by the recently revealed Slurpy Swamp. Did come back out with that water level rising out, and I think it gives Unknown a big advantage being in this area because he is so apt to taking those trades. As now we see another fight going on. It's the Big Shark versus XX Shark. And then you also have Zeshi coming in, so dropping into the Shark Tank quite literally over in Sweaty Sands during Shark Week as well. So plenty to go on here.
Are we going to see who's the biggest shark? As Big Shark does have 3 flops in the back pocket as well, so he has the fish, but we might be able to name who the biggest shark is here. But Rogue Shark normally not too keen to take these fights early on, so I'm not really sure what's going on here. Big Shark stepping back though, trying to hold these angles. He does, he comes out a little bit here, and the pistol gets put to work, and XZ Shark goes down to the Big Shark, proving that he is the biggest shark here in the lobby at this point, with 6 points on the board now, and his first elimination of game number 2.
That pistol hits so hard. We've talked about it a number of times, how we feel like there's a little bit of a pistol meta going on, but particularly in close quarters, the high rate of fire, its ability to spray out walls, and then the high headshot multiplier makes it very valuable to follow up with that charged shotgun, as you can see there. But now on board here, OAN Pen has a number of crash pads if he decides to go aggressively, but relying on the charged shotgun right now, Parner has him on the back foot, and that's a huge shot for Parner. Able to find it there, but can he convert fully? He's going to opt to pop the mini, and then I anticipate he'll probably try and do a vertical crash pad to drop on top of this player's head. He does still have 5. Not sure if he recognizes. There it is. Uses the ramp, placed and drop directly on top of it. N-Pen will go down. Parer gets the siphon, as well as now 12 crash pads to his name. Expect him to be utilizing those either aggressively or saving them for those mid and late game rotations.
Yes, unlucky there by N-Pen. I say unlucky, but he should have seen it coming. He got fooled by the same trick twice. It got used first, as you predicted as well. N-Pen should be able to predict it too. He did use it at the start of the fight. N-Pen wasn't in that box, but he should have known that was definitely his arsenal. He was probably going to try it again, as Smacked sitting in this bush. And now having the peppers, a massive form of utility and mobility that we haven't seen as much as the crash pads have been so dominant here. But forward peppers is nothing to scoff at. The increased movement ability they give you for an entire minute is massive. They increase your movement speed, and you can then do incredible things. You can jump into boxes easier, you can rotate easier. They are a very, very versatile, very good item that, unfortunately, due to the strength of the crash pad, I feel like has pushed them a little bit out of the spotlight, but they are still a very good item for Smack to have here in the back pocket, as he's just using this bush to give him that cover, as no players can see him in there. But if you're just watching, you don't play a lot of Fortnite, any shot can go through that bush, so this is a really risky strategy by Smack. If he takes shots out and someone traces that trajectory with the bullet lines that are left, they can get some easy shots in on him as well, so he needs to be careful.
And people will very frequently just spray bushes as they pass them just to check and make sure. But the ambush might pay off. You can see, trying to wait, line up the headshot. But there comes the spray through. As we talked about, somebody feels like, a little too comfortable right there. Smacked, will get traded out. Is going to opt to pop the 2 minis. Will probably pop a big pot here if he's not immediately convinced he can get for the siphon, which it doesn't look like he's going to go for. Probably the right call.
A lot of players, maybe if you're watching at home, confused at how he knew where Smacked was there in the bush. That's the issue right now. If Smacked now uses ADS, which is if he's on his controller left, obviously left trigger, or if he's on mouse and keyboard right click, it makes you look down the barrel of your gun and it will stick the gun further out. The animation can actually stick the gun out of the bush, and that could be potentially what gave Smacked away there, unfortunately. Or the other player, like Sundown just said, just had that feeling. Quite often there are going to be players laying in wait in the bushes for ambushes, and unfortunately Smacked gets a good amount of damage out, but takes a good amount of damage back. But with Storm Surge looming, as we talked about last game, it is worth getting that damage out and trading it as long as you have the meds to replenish it. But a lot of these guys looking to get that damage out without the trade, as Reverse goes down to Apex reloads. So we have our current first place, I believe he's still in first place, takes down Reverse, which has been one of the most dominant players out of NA East in the last 4 qualifiers. So Apex reloads showing that that last game wasn't a once-off.
Yeah, and Reload's another player. He's been around the scene for a long time, kind of been in and out in terms of whether or not he's been able to crack into the highest level. He's not someone who's always been like right at the top, but he has the potential to break through when he puts it all together. He just doesn't always necessarily get those days, but we do now tick over our first round of placement points there, so everyone left in the lobby will receive 1. Clicks also picks up Hydras, so we get a bonus 1 to go along with it, continuing his string of picking up early game eliminations. And we really don't give Clicks enough credit for how consistently good he is at picking those up, as Rokane will also pick up Canada, but then immediately get turned over by Furious, and a real quick string of eliminations there in a mid-game fight. Don't typically see that right as the third circle is revealed, but a ton of players actually going down, as Furious will pick up another one, and Whofishy picks up Dusky, and Reloads is just trying to stake out a little bit of claim here, as he's already in the circle. You can see that in the bottom right-hand corner, hanging out inside that white line. That's the new safe zone. Everyone else will be on the outside, as Furious, who we just saw pick up 2 eliminations, also has Miro and Fearful lurking nearby.
Yeah, so Kanata, our number 2 placing, he was tied on points at the start of this game with Apex. He does fall now as well. So that top leaderboard shaken up as Furious gets another elimination as well. And so does Whofishy. So we got some big names making some big plays here as Justice trying to get back into the game in a big way. And he does, gets in on Crims. He had no shield left. He didn't even have full health or shield. So big elimination here for Justice. Gets the minis back now. Still has one of those peppers, and he really needed that. But smart way to identify that elimination and just get in and grab it. 66 players alive now. Has the launch pad and max materials in a pretty decent part of zone as well. This coming into third zone now. It's about to start closing, so needs to be make sure he sets up here in a nice spot. Fourth zone is going to be a big one for him to try and get to, and see if he can maybe make the rotate. He's got that pepper still, and we did see that Apex, when he got that elimination Reverse, he boxed up that loot, so he had 3 spare peppers on top of his crash pad. So coming into a game 2, he is looking really, really good with what he's got coming into another game. And last game is worth pointing out, he won that without any real power weapons. I mentioned at the end, he didn't have the caddy launcher, didn't have the grappler gun, didn't really have a rocket launcher, had nothing that you really expect to see with someone holding high ground in these insanely stacked lobbies. So proving that he could do it here in game 2. It's always hard when you see a name jump out into first after a game 1 win, and it's off the back of something like we saw, like a caddy launcher that maybe they're not going to have every single game. Maybe there's one of those mythic items that they don't drop at and they just happen to find. So Punisher, only 1 point on the board, had a rough game 1, so he didn't even make it into top 75 game 1. He's only made it into top 75 in this game, but Punisher had a really good performance in the semi-finals, showed that he can have big games, so he's going to need to have a big game 2 to jump him back up there.
Yeah, the Frenchman from Texas, player for Complexity, been around the scene again for a very long time. And he's somebody who's very particular about mindset, coming up with a game plan, studying, going back, breaking down your film, and putting yourself in good position. Somebody who plays for consistency and to try and find picks, and that's exactly what he's doing right now. Deep in the zone, has a nice little covered edit. I know it might look like there's not a wall to the left. That's just one of those little replay bugs. He is covered on that side, as Nutex will also pick up Clicks again, going down before the second round of placement points. So something we see a lot from Clicks is early round exits from these tournament matches, and unfortunately that trend is going to continue for him. He's going to be reliant on something on the back half as Punisher continues raining shots down. You can see the circle is starting to close in over towards this lodge in the woods. Bucky on the side there, Bexifier as we hop on board here with Redux. 59 players left.
59 players left, getting closer and closer to that second placement threshold at 50. So this is where you don't really want to go down. Again, 1 point might not sound like a lot, especially with scoring formats in competitive history past being quite high. Now they're going back to the lower end of things, and 1 point has been the difference. Yesterday, it was 1 point between pretty much top 1 and top 3, and they were tied as well. So 1 point is a huge difference here, and top 50 will make that difference. Also, top 50 players here today will qualify into heats, and quite a lot of these players have not qualified. So around that middle section especially, it becomes very, very close on every elimination mattering. So we see Crumbler as well, 99 around here. Bucky, a name that we haven't seen here today, that we've seen coming up big a lot in competitive Fortnite at the moment, especially in trios and also duos for the Aqua and Nyrox Throwback Cup, as Crumbler's got 7 points on the board and looking pretty good for the most part.
And there's plenty of time, though, for everybody to pop off. We've talked about it before, how one game, one solid game is enough to rack you really far up the leaderboards and to be able to kind of set the tone. And we've seen how the first two is really just about establishing a foundation. So still plenty of time with 58 other players remaining rather than yourself to kind of make the plays and make something happen. You can see Redux potentially trying to do that right now. Storm Surge is going to come into play again. 9 players will be affected. And again, for those of you who might not necessarily always see Storm Surge, the effect it has on the lobby is those players are going to have to go out and be a little bit more aggressive. They're going to be forced to look for damage to, or at least trade with players. But you can see Redux, he is editing that wall. Every time you kind of see the blue pop up onto it, it's not changing. It's just a little bit of artifacting there. So a good job for him picking up that elimination there. Just throwing a couple AR rounds and able to find the tags.
That's all it takes sometimes. You can be just looking for those Storm Surge tags, but it's enough to get an elimination. Panda in a what looks like a pretty good spot. There's not too many people around him as well. Look up on this high ground as well. He's only 4 above those. This is a player that's looking to see that aggression. You can see him taking all those shots because he's got 16 seconds for 7 players to go down or to make sure he does enough damage to get above that. And you will know very clearly when someone is getting hit by Storm Surge. It is a very visible pink to purple lightning bolt that is striking them. The Fortnite gods are smiting them for not doing enough damage, and other players in the lobby can see it as well. They'll see someone getting hit by Storm Surge. They'll either A, know that player is going to die inevitably if something goes wrong. They're going to have to push them, or they're going to have to try and spray them down and do some damage. So it's a player you want to avoid because they're going to be looking for aggressive plays, or it's someone that you want to capitalize on because they're already taking some serious damage.
Yeah, I think as long as you don't fall into the trap of getting overly punished, 9 times out of 10 they end up just being a fish in a barrel or a fish in a box, depending on how you want to look at it. As stacking out picks up Surge, still 2 more players will have to fall. That half in, half out zone is revealed. If you see the bottom right hand corner, that is when the safe zone will move and begin intersecting the previous safe zone. So you can see the white line is now in between that old blue line. After that, we will have the full moving zones, which are what happens in both Arena and Tournament Fortnite, where the new safe zone is completely outside of the previous safe zone, and that's where you get those sick endgame rotations there. As Panda has to be careful, he will pick up Laser P. Storm Surge will turn off now. However, you're going to hear all the crash pads, all the launch pads going off as players are burning their utility, trying to get through here, but they need to be careful because we're over by the woods. It's really difficult to traverse vertically. You have to knock down some of those trees, make sure they aren't in the way. You have to make sure you have a clean path here. So we're going to hop on board with 100 Thieves Cease.
And he's got that grappler gun in the back pocket, and that is going to be great for this verticality, like you said. If it starts going up a hill, nothing is better to get up there than that grapple gun. It pulls out the glider as well, so you can go a little bit further, and Cease has been using it so well. It's an awkward item sometimes to use if you're not used to it when it comes to the end games, because the old grapple, as Sundown was touching on earlier, didn't have that kind of glider mechanics. You could grapple, you could box up, and it was a lot quicker, it was a lot more fluid, but Cease proves how good he is with it, and shows how smart he is at where he does grapple to try and make sure the glider doesn't leave him in the air too long and leave him vulnerable. You can't build while you're in the sky, so you're a very easy target if you don't use it properly. Cease using it very, very well today as well, part in other qualifiers too. 14 points total, and also this team has now gone, they've got half-half on this area, and they've got first rotating. Half-half being one of the most important zones in Fortnite to get, because it saves that mobility like Sundown was talking about. You don't have to burn it to get there. You get to now keep it for these other rotating zones, which we're going to see kick in right now. We'll see if Cease does use his launch pad or does use the grapple to make this rotate, or is this going to go back through some old builds to keep him safe for as long as possible?
He's rotating back to the old builds, but you can see again right above the map, Storm Surge is online. 14 players need to go down. 30 will be that threshold, so keep an eye on the top left hand corner. But Cease is going to keep an eye on rotation. He picks up aimbot MI right there. Brilliantly done from him. Rox picks up Booga. Bucky goes down to Miro. Joji will pick up Disrupt, and we have top 40. That's another placement point ticking over. We'll wait for a second here as the replay will catch up. All those crash pads and launch pads will go over. Cease picks up visuals as well, but now we'll see the glider grapnel gun being put to good use, and you can see how he's using it horizontally and staying low to the ground to really minimize the amount of time he spends in the air, whereas the rest of the lobby is trying to maximize the time spent in the air right now, getting as much horizontal distance as possible out of their utility as we're on board with Miro. Again, one of 3 players to have qualified for every single final round. They talk about solos, they talk about RNG, they say, no, you can't do it in a battle royale game. Well, he says, what do you mean you can't do it? 2 eliminations already to his name, 2 more players to fall, and he'll have a top 30 as well, and he'll directly contribute to that. Miro takes out such a clutch, not quite clutch enough for him there, as RBG also gets Zeshi, and Miro continues with that pepper rotation. Aussie, he's just so quick.
He's so quick with it. He's got such a good loadout to close this one out. Miro with 2 legendary weapons in the back pocket is going to be very scary for this rest of this lobby. And we might see Zeke getting the final laugh, as I see Furious is still in this lobby, dropping some big eliminations as Cease falls. Unfortunately, Miro in a great spot right now, just using that rotation to keep staying frontside. He'll get frontside of zone, then he'll look back, get his eliminations, and then keep moving. He's staying away from that backside of zone constantly to make sure he doesn't fall in the storm and take that damage. He's got 1 flopper left as well, so he has got a little bit, and I don't know if that's his cone or the enemy's cone. If that was Miro's, that was some incredibly quick reactions, and he's going to just sit back up here. That elimination is not worth going for. He's just inside that top 20 placement threshold. He knows that he needs eliminations right now to get extra points, but he wants the placement. Nice little stair flip, and he gets it. Stacky goes down. Miro is on a warpath, and he's just upgraded from a legendary burst to now have the Ocean's mythic burst AR, and he has a legendary charge shotgun. He is looking so good to close this out. 4 eliminations on the board. Can he outdo Kanata? Can he drop enough eliminations to jump right up there? 16 points already as Hogman takes down Apex, which was our first place player coming into this game. So it's going to shake up the leaderboard a little bit, Sundown.
It's going to shake up the leaderboard indeed, as now we see Miro dropping down, and we've talked about it. We've wanted to see a player really take control in NAE, say, hey, this is my region, this is my opportunity. Nobody has really risen up and been able to control the games, but right now Miro has an opportunity to do that. For Elim so far, dropping down, finds a 5th, a huge shot onto Danny with that legendary charge, and he says, why not make it a double? Furious's run goes down, and he's going to be furious about that. Miro making him look silly for Elim, number 6, and he's not done yet with still 7 players remaining. Can he find more? Because he's looking for it with still 68 builds, a crash pad, and a flopper. He's set up to potentially go huge here, and he does, finding class as well. 6 players left.
Miro is going to continue his warpath right now. I can't see anything stopping him. Miro now pushing forward. Nosh, Bank, Hogman. We got some big names in this lobby, though. Some people that could maybe put an end to Miro's warpath. No, never mind. No one is stopping it right now. He's on 23 points. There's only 3 opponents to walk through. Make that 2 opponents to walk through. I don't think I've ever seen someone clean up an endgame in a final just like this. He has got so many eliminations. He now has 3 mythic weapons. Miro drops down and takes down Bank. There is no way he adds everyone into this. Can Miro close out the perfect endgame, taking down almost every other player here is facing? He has not out-survived them. He has not outlived them. He has eliminated them, and I think he will here. Miro takes the high ground, and he does. I don't think I have ever seen someone take out almost every remaining player in the top 10. Miro, that is an almost perfect game with 11 eliminations.
Bueno, mira, that was amazing, so good at the end there, but specifically, I want to key on the fact that Smacked hit him with a huge 132 shot, and what did he do? He didn't panic and instead played the zone, played the utility, got over, and used the time to end it out. Brilliantly done. Guys, break it back out in the studio, because that was a run and a half.
And Miro, let's go. Double digits, and it's only the 2nd game of NAEs. That's what we're here to see. Miro with the legendary run, and as Aussie kind of mentioned, he eliminated basically everyone. No one was safe from his rampage, Shy.
Absolutely. When it comes to Miro and it comes to endgame, we now know that this man is a threat, and it wasn't always like that, though, Monster.
No, that's the secret to his success right now, man. I was alluding to that coming into this whole thing. He had 2 victory royales in the semis. Now he's picking one up in the finals. This is probably his first that he's done at this highest caliber. When he was at the FNCS Invitational coming into this whole thing, when he first hit my radar, he wasn't doing well on those finals days, but it looks like he is putting his practice to work, and he's capitalizing on it. Just look at him at the top of the chain right now. He must feel really good about this.
Yeah, I mean,
Man.
14 eliminations, a majority of them beforehand, and a win. Zeke, this is just absolutely nuts.
Bro, Miro is pulling away from everyone. Starting game 2 with 31 points, but do keep in mind, second, third, and fourth are all tied. Reloads, Furious, and Smack at 24 points. Now, the Victory Royale was putting Reloads ahead of everyone else on tiebreakers. But looking down between 5th and 10th place, this is where you're starting to see that disparity, almost doubling 10th place's points right now.
And listen, think about it. He had 11 eliminations. This is a record for NA East. We only just saw Mr. Savage set a new bar, right? A new high for the EU region. So Miro stepping up to the plate for a finals day 11 elims. That is absolutely ridiculous. You're seeing how and what can happen with preparation of making end games with someone who is absolutely aggressive and great at box fighting and just landing those shots. I mean, it reminds me of the story of Unknown Army when he was on the rise up. He's just devastating in the early game and the mid game, but you put him in end game and he pops those frags. Either way, though, here's your second page. Big names that are coming up. P-God, you see, branching his way up to 15th place now. You see Who Fishy, still very much in the conversation in the top 20, but someone who's still lurking there as well is Hogman. Hogman had a fairly fall-off day yesterday. He was doing well into the semis, but he didn't do great on the finals, right? He didn't do great on that third qualifying round. And that's why he finished like just outside of top 70, I believe.
Yeah, it's still dangerous for all these players, though. Just look at the point overall tie with 13. I think there's more than 8 people who will have this number. Nosh being the last one of them at 21st place. Still, these guys are all on track to qualify for those heat stages because you have to come top 50. Built Diff 3827 is also here right now, and he was still in this spot towards the game number 1 that we just watched beforehand. After game 2, he's holding strong, 10 points overall. Redux is here too with 10. Rokane kind of teeters down, but is still surviving at 11. When a new man rises up, it gets intense, and it's that much harder to get towards the top spots.
We're going to be battling it out, man. 4 games left. Things are still and could go any which way. This is unfolding much like a movie, where at any point, everything could just be flipped on its head, and someone could come out on top that we do not expect to see there.
A movie indeed, Zeke. I feel like every single FNCS game has its own script. So let's take you behind the scenes and talk about exactly how a win is made. It starts with a main character, and that's P-God in terms of who I thought would take away that last game. This is basically how he set up all his lights, his cameras, his early game action up. It was all about making sure your drop spot is secured, isolated too, completely. There was only one other person fighting for the part. He was quick with the elimination onto Platinum Rates TV. That man got canceled, and after that had some good time to think about where to go next, what rotation to make, and had a lot of pressure riding up with this. Remember, in game 1, he was in that top 20 spot. He wanted to get ahead, 85 people alive. You got to think of Storm Surge. You got to think of your production costs for being able to survive in this game. You must deal damage. In doing so, though, he got taken out, and we had a recasting. You guys saw it. It was Miro, and he landed over at Dirty Docks. He was looking so good last game. This is the foundation behind that, though. These are all the lines he had to memorize first, taking out people at his spot over and over again, and then moving over with his rotation. One of the most earliest eliminations that we saw, 90 people still left alive. He got so close to elimination, but he stayed alive. He knew exactly where to be. His position was set, and he moved forward to that end game where things really got towards its climax.
That's right, and you can see how he's cutting across the field here, really canvassing the lay of the land right now. And this is just his journey in full, the places that he had to touch down, the different path that he experienced on his way towards the top of the chain. You don't get the best roles unless you put in the work, and you're seeing Miro play that part right now and getting directly into the action.
Yeah, for Miro, every single person was an antagonist to his storyline, and he was looking like he was completely overpowered. One punch to take out anyone who was in his way. Every single time, this legendary charged shotgun made such a big impact. 132 right there onto Class, taking him out. It was so easy for Miro. Just look at it. Mere seconds, complete efficient time on every elimination, and there was always a slight angle to it. His crosshair was ready. Down to the final 3. Right, Sundown Aussie, they mentioned it. He took out almost all the top 10 like it was literally a movie, and you saw the setup. He has such a fast drop spot. Even got the glider gun so no one could catch up to him all the way at the top. Once again, like beginning, like the end, no HP left. Didn't matter. Still had it secured against Smacked and won out that game.
Man, and when you make it to the top, you shine brighter than everyone else, and that is how he found himself with a blinged out kit, mythics all around, and a few drinks to celebrate his rise to stardom. Of course, guys, that's just game number 2. We got 4 more on deck. And guess what? It is time to keep this ball rolling. Let's get ready to jump back out of the battle bus with Sundown and Aussie Antics here in game number 3 of NA East. Take it away, boys.
Thank you so much, Zeke, Monster, and Shio for breaking that down. And I mean, Miro might as well have been screaming, "I like gold" there at the end from the high ground, but able to get around the side, close out the match, and take the #1 spot. Brilliantly done. But now we're in game number 3, the halfway mark for the final qualifier. We've seen kind of where it stayed. The question is, who can keep the momentum rolling? Clay has talked about it a number of times, but traditionally, after somebody wins a match, we see a very, very significant fall off. So can Miro continue to dominate Dirty Docks as we've seen, or will he get caught out and stutter a little bit?
Yeah, it's coming into those end games that it's very helpful to know that Miro is dropping a non-mythic PY that seems like he has pretty good control of. 3 other people at Dirty Docks. I mean, he could go down maybe once, and unfortunately in a 6-game format, that is enough to really throw a first place. You really need to play out almost every game to perfection, but Miro picking up so many points that last game, so many eliminations. He really can kind of, I don't know, he can't let off the pace a little bit, but A1 King looking to maybe try and break this down here. We've seen how good Miro can be endgame. We've seen him win this fight already today, early game, but does King get the last laugh here or get the second laugh as they still have a few more games to go up against each other? Miro not ready for it. He doesn't know he's there. He's right behind that corner. No, he has that extra sense. Miro, I swear this guy just has a 6th sense for where players are lurking. He was behind that door. Great little angle, but Miro just reacted in time, and King, now his ambush is not going to work for him, and King might be backing off as he knows last time this fight broke out on what was the even footing, Miro won it. So King might know that he has been bested here, and he wants to maybe leave it with the loot he has, come back, maybe next game he can set up for an ambush that's a little bit more effective, as Miro now getting shot by the other player that's at Dirty, and Hydra's picking up an elimination over here down near Camp Cod, up near the weather station. Oh no, next to Misty.
Yeah, and it's key picking that up eliminations when you're kind of on these outside scavenger routes, because there's actually not enough loot to support more than one person. If you're on one of these kind of outside scavenger routes and looking to pick up maybe 3 or 4 chest routes, and then all of a sudden someone else is there, you can't take 3 or 4 chests into an endgame. It doesn't work. It won't ever work. You won't get the amount of utility and shields you need to survive in a lobby like this. So you're forced to take a fight early on. And now Bugha, at honestly what I think is one of the most strongest drop spots in the game, just because of the availability of metal and brick right away. You can see already able to get up to a sizable amount of metal over here on the southeast or southwest corner, excuse me, by where Rig used to be. Fortia over here as well, but also rotating back into Slurpee late, just the excess amount of shields. I mean, there's a reason a number of players who have been successful on both cross NA East and EU have been landing over in this freshly revealed area.
Yeah, the rig is a very good drop. It has that open vault as well, so you don't get as much vault loot as what you would from one of the mythics, but it does have that guaranteed launch pad that we see Bugha have every single time, and a launch pad is so important. Just having that, if you get an opposite half-half or even an opposite rotating, can just do so much for you, as Bugha taking a pretty early game aggressive fight, and probably rightfully so. It looks like Fredo here is on the back foot, and also the other player is looking pretty healthy, so Bugha needs to make sure that he chooses his opponent rightly here, as Marauders now drop in too. This could become a very dicey fight very quickly, as Bugha getting some really good shots out of the sky, follows up with a couple of good ones, doesn't land the snipe. That would have been legendary, but now he has to contest with the Marauders, and I believe based on the shields of that opponent, I think the one player that's left here is the one player that's actually on the back foot, so Bugha might be able to clean this up and even get that little Marauder pack for a bit of extra loot. Can he get in 75 white? There it is. He takes down Fredo, and that player disengaging was actually very, very good for Bugha. Could be good for them as well, getting out of there before this third party from Bugha came in, but quite often you won't see that except for this highest level, people using their launch pads this early to get away. But Bugha maybe looking like he wants a little bit more out of this.
Yeah, but he also needs to be careful, because we've seen all of those clips on social media of the Marauders. If you go up one of those Deadeye Marauders, or somebody else is catching a couple tags as you fall on top of a player, could be a difference. But Hunting rifle shot there coming out from Dusky onto Vexifier. Will find him for the 91 tag. Vexifier right away going to pop the minis and be backed off. Dusky up and above him. Vexifier goes to disengage, and a huge hunting rifle shot followed up with AR shots as well. However, Dusky does get hit. Both players will get top 75. Unknown also getting a pity placement point there before going down early. So the NRG player continuing his tradition of struggling in these set lobbies when he's put up against the best of the best and can't just push all willy-nilly. But pushing all willy-nilly is exactly what Dusky's doing right now on the back of his hunting rifle shot, because he has been scary accurate so far.
He has been incredibly accurate. Doesn't need to do much more damage to close this one out. This player's now used all their utility to disengage with those crash pads. Dusky looking to try and get in with that epic charge shotgun that he hasn't even had to put to use yet, because like you said, he's been hitting his hunting rifle shots, and 90 to the body is a very good amount of damage. As Dusky comes back around here, it's a low ground scrappy box fight, but these are some of the best fights to have because it reduces your chance of getting third party. You're just down in amongst all these builds underneath the hills, and there it is. Dusky takes down Vexifier. There's not much he can do, and Dusky picks up the nice elimination, a bit of extra shield as well, but didn't pick up any of the movement or utility because unfortunately Vexifier used it to try and disengage from Dusky before he got that fight. But 2 eliminations on the board. He's doing well here in game 3 after only having 5 points total combined.
Vexifier was never winning that fight. If you are running away defensively from a charged shotgun while you have attack, you're never going to find an opportunity to dive back in on him and win one of those fights. He's always just going to get these little chips, or he's going to find that big shot to finish you off, and he'd already hit the hunting rifles. But right now, Virus versus Bucky over here on the side. You can see Bucky trying to get on the box. He does get in, commits to the AR spray, and he finds that Virus was already low. Good job from the Built by Gamers player. Will upgrade away from just that common charge to pick up the uncommon tack. Will pick up the siphon and some mats from that as well. Is going to opt to hold on to his big shield. So feels like he's playing with a little bit of confidence right now.
Yeah, Bucky coming in with confidence, 12 points in as well. And this is where we saw a lot of fights break out here yesterday at Orchard. We saw Zexo actually having a lot of fights here. It's a good drop, has a lot of position, but it normally will have 2 people added, and Bucky staking his claim on it. All the other games, we haven't seen him show up too much here today, and he is known for being a very, very solid solo player. Obviously, qualified for World Cup in what is probably one of the biggest fan favorite qualifiers, I think, out of all of them with Bucky. It was such a good story, and seeing if he can pull it back here today, so many seasons later, showing that he's still at the top as Apex Reloads, who was at the top after game 1 on 25 points, not doing poorly by any means, but definitely didn't keep up the pace that he had in game 1 as Apex tries to win this fight. 105 opens up with a heavy shot, gets the edit on the stairs, but he can't connect with the AR, but he does, takes down Fired, and that was a really good fight from Apex Reloads, and he gets that 1 elimination on the board now to start off this game, and the 2nd point for that top 75, and he's looking pretty good.
Yeah, that was a tough fight from Fired there, though. You feel like once you dive in, you got to follow up and hit those shots, but wasn't really connecting with anything. But now, Dusky, who we just saw play uber aggressively over on the side against Vexifier, up against Clicks, who you know is never going to back down from a fight, has the peppers, has plenty of shields, also has that legendary charge shotgun, gets the first shot as well. Wall will go over the top. A 34 tag comes through, but he gets returned back in a monstrous chunk onto his shield there. Gets pushed down to just above 100 effective HP, but makes Dusky look not so good right there. And again, this is what Clicks does best. We talk about it. He's able to get those early game elims. He's going to emote on him. But until he really begins to put it all together, I'm not too impressed by this. You can emote all you want, but pretty much anybody in this lobby is capable of winning some of these early game fights. Until you convert it into mid game and more, it's really just another player who's doing okay in round 3.
Oh, got a Sundown Flame coming out, but it is true. You've really got to put it all together if you want to be one of those top players, as we now see that Miro now holds the record across all regions for the most eliminations in first 2 games, counting 14 eliminations with that insane 2nd game. And that's what it takes, right? Those eliminations are impressive in the early game. It's a nice little fight, but really, when Miro's wiping the lobby end game and picking up points and the win, that is what you really need to do to impress here and try and pick up those big points on the leaderboard. One fight is one thing, and Clicks, we know he wins those fights. You do really want to see someone with that same mechanical prowess just really focus up, play the mid game, and get to the end game where those mechanics can then reward you the eliminations and the placement like we saw from Miro.
Exactly, and I mean, we've seen him make some of the most absurd endgame runs when he gets in there and he gets those opportunities. He's some of the best because he can rely and fall back on those reactions and the mechanics. It's just making sure you don't get caught in these mid-game opportunities, and I would much rather see him focus on that right now rather than kind of focusing on getting these really early eliminations and trying to set himself up, because if he's able to fix that patch in his game, he can become absurdly dangerous not only on the NA East finals level, because right now he's averaging a 30-something place in the finals with the 16th that has really bumped him up there, but he doesn't necessarily have those really big set lobby performances that you would expect from somebody of his level of talent and potential, and that's really what I want to see him focusing on, making that transition into the mid and the late game and putting it all together so he can be that threat and a dangerous player, a dangerous complete player rather than just the early game going on, because as you see the format in the top right, so much of it hinges on placement and getting into that late game and being able to outlast your opponents.
Yeah, it's what you really need here. Miro set up in a good position, just doing like what you said. He's playing in that mid-game safe. He's in a good position to then get to endgame to try and pick up those points. As you can see on the right, we're breaking down the points. That Victory Royale is worth 14 points. So if you can get some eliminations on top of that 14 points, that's really what you need to jump up there. That 1 point for the elimination is not worth that much when you think that every single person who goes down in the top 10 is an extra point in itself as well.
Because it ends up just being so many opportunities to take down players, but right now, NPen was trying to clean up elimination here, but gets backed off, and that can be the danger of fighting in these natural covers. It's a little bit riskier to kind of walk around, and Power was able to back him off with the charge shotgun. NPen desperately trying to close the gap and not allow Power to burn through too many of these utilities. He knows he's low. He wants to resolve this fight. Again, trying to close the gap and eating another huge shot, opting not to close out because, again, Power backing off, burning more utility. Needs to be careful of the edit on the wall. They are now both in the storm, so a little bit of onus on them to resolve the fight. However, it is just the one tick. Crash Pad will come out and go through it. NPen is finally able to find the one shot he needed. He knew Power was low and was able to finally pick that up. Hucks a Crash Pad away. Not sure if that was intentional. Actually, no, he threw the med kit towards zone. My bad. Didn't see that swap over there, which is real big brain play, unlike 72 Hours in the semifinals, who threw a flopper away as he was pushing high ground. Rip Tom, I'm sorry. That was a little bit unfortunate. But Hogman actually just comes over and plants himself on top of the med kit, says yoink, that one's mine, as now we hop on over to P-God here, who's set up in a pretty good position with plenty of peppers and shields here. If he wants to get aggro, he really could.
Yeah, the Peppers are really good for that aggression play. They're really good in the end game as well. That's where you can see someone run around and really get some big eliminations. He's trying to make his way forward here. He's got to be careful. Those Marauders, they're not that scary, but I mean, they can hit some big shots. You said it earlier. We've seen some people take down some big shots from the Marauders in the past. We've even seen some headshot snipes. So you got to keep yourself covered. P-God, unfortunately, not respecting him enough there. He's now on the low ground, popping the shield that he does have, but it was a bit of unnecessary damage. I was going to say, those 5 peppers, that is the most glorious, most fun thing to do in these end games on rotating zones. Hit the peppers and just run through some people.
And you can see the Marauder does go down. Player ends up in the box. Huge shot going into P-God. P-God, though, doesn't panic. Sticks to the AR. Goes with a hip fire. And unfortunately, huge choke going on from his opponent there. Missing every shot. And Booga and Surge both coming in playing a little bit of Loot Goblin. Do still have the one Marauder over there just kind of blankly firing off into the side. But will Booga be able to pick up Surge? We wait for the server to catch up there. And you can see he is going to be able to resolve that one. So now P-God and Booga just slightly offset from each other. And Booga seems to know he's here. He's lurking and he doesn't really want to let him exit. Well, actually, no. He is just going to let him exit. In fact, he's going to exit himself, burn one of his launch pads. He's going to go all the way back over to zone. P-God, hearing that go off, is just going to follow him back in, take the free rotation. Some AR fire is going to come out, going to take a little bit of chip on the shield. However, also has popped one of those peppers, so that will get him into zone. P-God popping a pepper will hopefully peruse him some plentiful points, but now trying to hunt back onto Booga. Finds 2 36 tags there. Looks to close the gap. Some shields are ending up being popped off, but finds the wall replace. However, has already been disengaged over the side. Knows there's another player over by Risky Reels, so P-God needs to be careful here. And honestly, I would just back up, box yourself in, and pop that big shield.
Yeah, and I gotta say it, it's P-God, the Peruvian, popping the peppers. Got a bit of a tongue twister here, see if he can try and make his way in onto Booger here, who's had a reasonable start to the day here, but not that insane dominant performance that we saw out of him out of day 2, where we had that glorious Booger versus Stretch finale, where Stretch did unfortunately come out on top on Booger, but Stretch isn't here, so Booger gets to write his own story here today, as DGen looking really good. Another player that's been very, very consistent on that 11-point mark, in a good position here up near this zone, nice and high, which is going to make those crash pads or that launch pad rotate that much easier if he has to make it, with 2 in the back pocket too, just about to slide inside top 60, which won't be a placement format. He'll have to get into that top 50 to get one more extra point, as he's going to expand out a little bit in his hard mats and just make sure that he keeps this base nice and secure and no one tries to go too aggressive for it.
And I wouldn't necessarily be burning more builds yet. You can see he does have a relatively close rotation, has 6 crash pads as well as the launch pad, so should have the ability to just launch himself in and get a quick catch. He can choose to rotate a little bit late because he is on the slow side of the zone, meaning that in order to move to the safe zone, the zone actually has less distance to travel. So people who are in that southwest corner, the zone is going to be a lot faster as opposed to the people who are right next to that safe zone there. We do see XSet Shark, aka Rogue Shark, player recently who joined XSet Gaming, organization that just started up, some professional athletes over there. Fortnite player and Atlanta Falcon player Kurt Ben Kurt also over in that regard, but unfortunately Shark going to go down there. DGen again finding a great angle to be able to take him down, chaining the assault rifle shots and ending it, and that's the problem if you rotate too early and you're not really going to cover yourself. Everyone else who's already established themselves in zone is looking for you to come in. The players who aren't going to be afraid to burn utility or rotate a little bit later, aka DGen, is just going to be waiting for you to expose your back. Now DGen's going to try and make the same run, and you can see immediately what happens. Some shots coming from zone, and he needs to be careful. He has utility here. I'd be really shocked if he opts to, yeah, boom, right away, going to use a crash pad, just quick little hop, skip, and a jump into the zone, and now we're on board here with Twitch Beast AFK.
150 above the Storm Surge, and he gets that. He had that wall that whole time. I'm interested to see why he was so clear about making it known that he was there when he had that wall, was setting off that ambush. Maybe that player just sitting on a stair or a cone waiting, but then when that extra fire came out, that was enough for Beast to come out and get that free elimination. As you see D-Roller above his head, someone that I want to see perform well here today. I love cheering on those guys who prove people wrong, that they weren't one-off tournament wonders, as Beast AFK now here on the low ground, getting aggressed on, as this player might want that extra little bit of loot. It's quite a common strategy to push up here, go aggressive and try and push someone off the loot they've just acquired, but never mind. Fatch going down. Beast gets the double elimination and the double loot now. Fatch getting a little bit greedy, and Beast AFK not going anywhere. He's backing himself to win those fights and hold on to the loot that he needs.
Fatch, the Canadian World Cup qualifier, going down there, trying to be a little bit of a loot goblin, but the rare tactical shotgun, again, we've talked about just how strong it is in those close quarter combat situations, being able to get the cone in the box, force him out. We do have Timbers Cody over here against Built by Gamers Bucky. Bucky trying to find the shots he can. He does have that charged shotgun, so going to be a little limited in terms of his box-to-box opportunities. Going to be looking for one of those big shots or a quick little edit. However, player dives into the box, and that was Cody sticking with the AR, keeping it with the hip fire and taking him out there. Didn't have a pepper active, but still, quick way to resolve that fight.
And we see D-Roller coming out on top. Beast AFK taking down 2, but 3 was too many. So that means D-Roller has a nice little loot pile in there as well. And Cody, someone that we've seen performing very, very well for a while there, was going caddy corners, was trying to pick up that caddy launcher and performing dominant with it. Has obviously given that up here today. I'm guessing, as we have not seen it in his hand, in his back pocket just yet, putting a nice little base out with all those extra mats that he just gained, as Bank is near him. And Kanata is in a fight with Nosh. Now, this breaks out into a full-blown box fight. This is 2 Titans in the box fight meta, 2 of the best players toe-to-toe in these situations. They both have incredibly good edits, building, and aim, all needed here, as Nosh, proving that he has good aim, picks up the elimination on the big shark, and that's a 2-point swing, the elimination and the top 50 placement.
And I mean, Nosh just making you look so good right there. You talk about his good aim, and then hits back to back to back headshots, followed up by 2 body shots there to get a nice 200-0 in the crash pad. Nosh proving that even with that nerf headshot multiplier, able to pick that up here. Some good spray and position control, however, is going to lose a little bit of high ground priority there. The player will not have a box above him, doesn't necessarily want to challenge yet, has plenty of launch pads, or 1 launch pad and the crash pad to be able to go for this when he makes the opportunity. And he's going to wait to see where the zone reveals and then decide from there Honestly, I think if zone goes far or across from where this player is, you can see him use a crash pad to both launch himself up and knock this player down. I think that's probably what he's looking to determine to do. Either that, or he's just, yep, he pulls zone towards his side. He's probably going to wait and then look to crash pad himself. So what Nosh wants right now is to find picks without Degen being able to put shots on him, or he's going to build up on high ground, take it away from Degen. Now he can late rotate, shoot down on the rest of the lobby. He's not going to be overly threatened, and as soon as he does decide to go, it's a free crash pad back down onto the builds.
Yeah, those crash pads give you that ability to go up so high, and you want to reinforce it so you can hold it, but it's not the end of the world if you don't now. It's very, very easy just to double hit spacebar, or depending if you're on controller, double tap, and then you can get that crash pad down and saves you from fall damage. So Nosh in a great position, and we've seen how much damage you can put out with that epic AR last round. He can get someone else out of the sky here. That's another free point as he's set up there as Degen. Joji also looking to put some damage out as Clix, making the end game, hoping to try and do what me and Sundown want to see from him so badly, hitting a really good end game and showing that mechanical prowess with a little bit of that game knowledge end game to pick up some big placement points and the eliminations. Has one on the board that we saw earlier from outside Pleasant Park, has one of those peppers and gets in now. He's trying to just use his move, use his shield now before he then pushes forward with that legendary charge shotgun. This could be someone who could rival Miro's end game run. He could put up enough eliminations to try and outshadow Miro. It sounds crazy to say that after the game he had, but if anyone can do it, it's probably Clix as he walks forward now. Can't connect though. Assumes the player drops back, but there it is. Takes him down. That Stowe. But unfortunately, Clix drops down to a much, much worse layer down here with a lot of other players, so needs to be careful to fight his way out. As we now see Danny on the high ground, Nosh has given it up as a lot of people hit in the air, hitting that vertical rotation, the crash pads, the launch pads, everyone's in the sky, and P-God looking to try and repeat his day one performance here with 19 points, making his way to front side.
Yeah, but you talked about the layer there, Nosh picking up another one, then immediately getting turned over by P-God, playing Avenger there, taking that one down, a big swing. Nosh was in prime position, but I don't know if you noticed that Clix popped his last pepper, then picked up 4 floppers. So Clix with floppers in a legendary charge shotgun could end up spelling for a late high ground take a la Season 2. But right now, on board here with P-God, top 25 means another placement point ticking over. Every 5 players that goes down until we get into that top 5 will be the story here. Kararu falling to the storm as well. P-God doing a good job looking for picks, able to find a couple of tags. Can he follow up? He does. Well done by P-God, taking out Rokane, one of the other 4 times qualifiers. Top 20, more points going down as Clix picks up another Elam, trying to say, Sundown, what are you talking about? I make endgame totally fine here. P-God 4 Elams, checking around the outside.
We want to see these players do well. That's why we know what potential they have, and I want to see Clix put on a show here at the end game. Someone else, D-Roll, like I said, that I want to see perform here today, prove that he wasn't a one tournament wonder, as he's already got 2 eliminations on the board, pushing forward with his blue tack, has 3 chug splashes too, to kind of out heal a little bit if he does take some storm damage, gets 1 there to put him up to 100 as Booger goes down here in the top 15. I think his best place in format today, or one of the best so far, as we inch in towards that top 10 as Who Fishy goes down. We see Joji still in this lobby, D-Roll on the low ground, Cody, Clix is nearby, and Clix might be running out of shield. No, he's got shield to pop. He just needs to get it off. He's upgraded, so he actually dropped the legendary charge for the legendary tack shotgun, so Clix might get that quick fire rate out to get those quick eliminations here before this one closes out.
Yep, and now you can see those floppers coming into play on the backside of the zone, picking up a number of builds there too. That's the benefit of working on this backside. Sometimes you can get loot that other players forgot or weren't able to pick up. Now looking for a layer on itself, you can see Danny on the wide on the left, all the way up on low ground. You have Smexy as well. D-Roller picks up an Elim on that low ground on the backside of Storm. Need to watch for Clix though. You can see him kind of playing shark right now on the mid ground top. He's relatively uncontested. Smexy and P-God in a fight there on the left side of your screen, while the Roller and Clix continue to just rotate through. Old Man Mountain and the old builds combining to make this a relatively difficult rotate, as P-God will end up getting picked up by Cobalt, another absurd player who's just been overly consistent as we move closer and closer to our top 5 thanks to an elimination coming out. 1 from DeRoller, 1 from Clix. Clix gets another one. DeRoller picks it up as we have our top 4, Aussie.
And I don't think any of these players are currently in the top 10, so this could shake up the leaderboard massively. This is going to see a lot of people jump up, as Clix trying to jump up here and has to be pushed back down. Has 17 builds left, 4 eliminations. He's making his way through. Needs to start worrying about that health, as this could very easily go to a heal off. This zone is about to close out as Clix drops down. This is his moment. Can he put the tack shotgun to use? Was it better to run the charge shotgun? No, tack coming out on top. A 1v1 takes down D-Roller. High ground versus low ground. We've seen it so many times. Danny has the massive health advantage. If Clix just stays down here, if he doesn't make a move, He's not going to win, but no, he jumps down. He gives him the chance. All Danny had to do was stay back. He had the health advantage. He could not have known that, though, and Clix picks up the 6th elimination win, showing what me and Sundown were talking about. He has the ability if he just makes it to endgame.
All right, now you can emote. Now you can emote. That's fine. Don't emote after those early game elims, but take the emote at the end. Clix clutching it up. Brilliantly done to close that one out. Look at the architecture. Look at the dinosaur. Zeke, Monster, Shio, take it away and let us know how that game went.
My goodness, Clix. I'm a little shaken there because Danny had all the cards. He had HP, he had shield. Clix is on 70 HP. He literally just had to walk back in a storm. Now, granted, in Danny's mind, he's probably thinking, what if this guy has floppers? What if he has heals? Probably why he took the fight. Clix, though, proven, hey, if you want to take the fight, I'll win.
Yeah, I mean, this game was a tourney shifter, and we can see it in the standings 100%. Like, these guys are absolutely just playing so different game to game. And that's where we're seeing different names come up all the way to the top. That being said, the person in first stays the same. It's Miro Monster, and he is still holding the fort down.
Yeah, he picked away or chipped away at a few placement points that time around. Not the performance that he's quite looking for. Notice he's being seriously held up by the elim. So if he can continue to get those placement points, he'll continue to pat himself a nice, comfortable lead. But we talk about the top 10 looking to change, and it is already. You see P-God switching a couple spots here. Smack, Class, and Reloads also battling for the first place. So it's anyone's game right now in the top 10 and continuing to push that story right now. It's Clix who breaks his way through. 23 points now, literally a rising star here at 8th. And that's a solid placement coming into the halfway mark of the tournament so far.
Yeah, just remember that this is the last time we're going to be seeing qualifier matches until the heats when people will be playing for grand finals. So this is one of the last chances you get at an easier stage to get first place. All these guys really want it. They want that accolade under their belts. We can see Cease right below Clix there. Who Fishy is hungry once again. He was kind of near 18th, 17th place, now bumped up to 11th. He is still tied, though. I think it's a 4-way tie with Skittles, Danny, and the 10th place slot on that first page. So he's got a bit of work cut out for him.
That's right, and you can see fizzling away there, Stacky, Kanata, players that are falling a bit here. Booga now hitting this back page. Not that it matters too much for those that have hard qualified through, but it is still a battle of the day, right? It's who's on top of the game right now, who is on top of their game right now. And coming in, we're seeing a clear set of favorites towards that upper half. But this format favors everyone all the way through to the tail end. This is only halfway into the competition so far. There is plenty more that's going to unfold. A lot more of a change that can happen throughout the course of this. We've seen players qualify their way through off of one big pop-off game. Something like you saw Miro do with the massive frags in the Victory Royale. So don't count out anyone back here that still needs to step it up or continue to stay on pace here, because this is a battle for the heats. It's a battle to make it through to the heats. And that's what matters right now. That's what's at the stake right here. That's what's on the line.
That's right, man. An overall scoreline of 21 points. We've seen that be that kind of, you must be this tall to ride if you want to push onto heats. Now, don't forget, there's also series points that some of these players could rely on, but I don't think that's the route you want to go. At this point, you're looking to hit that top 50. You want to try and qualify. And one great game, just like you said, the Victory Royale is worth 14 points. A few eliminations coupled with that could result in some really awesome things. Now, before we get going, let's get a little bit of temperature check here when the midway point.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at that entire last game and the leaderboard overall towards the 30th to 50th slot. Things are kind of changing, so let's put a thermometer in it. Let's look at how hot and cold some of these players have been. Starting off all the way near the ice, it's Furious, who was near that top spot, I believe about 3rd place overall. Then he's walking into his drop spot. Unfortunately, gets frozen inside a box, lands one good shot, but gets taken out all the way in the early game.
Things are going to heat up just a bit here. We're going to do a little bit of a temperature check now onto Smack, who's going to throw himself in the microwave for about 30 seconds or so. You know, that'll get you nice and lukewarm here in the competition. Smack's going to go ahead and find himself what he needs at 26 points now. Remember, he threw himself up to the top 3 this time around, and it's the consistency, it's the frags, and it's the few elims that he's finding right here, right now, when it matters most. And that one right there, he gobbles it up. It's all inside. And this is how he manages to play for the placement and make it matter and count the most, especially in the end game here.
Yeah, for Smack, He's warming up, and we're going to be obviously switching over to who's on top in terms of fire. We're looking at someone who won over that last game. It's Clicks who's going to be on your screen, looking at exactly how he got over so many other players towards that end game. D-Roller took out Cobalt, but then after that, Clicks at low HP took out D-Roller, making it a 1v1. And if it's ever Clicks against someone else and there's builds in the way, that's basically any instance. He's always at that advantage. Regardless of HP, this player drops down, and Clicks gets it, being the winner for that game, moving up in contention for the top spot. The sun is still shining though over at Miro, who's in first place. Still, anyone could heat up in our eyes. People could get a little bit chilly and fall. Game 4 will be coming up soon.
And that's the
right, boys.
meteoric rise right there from Clicks.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Is like when you give someone like Clicks that opportunity, he will shine, and the sun will set on his opponents. Now, guys, with that being said, the competition is heating up, but we're going to cool on down. What we're going to do is go to a break, but you do not want to miss the tail end of the competition because this is it. The final opportunity for players to qualify for the heats next Friday. Get up, and we'll see you guys in just 5 minutes. So stay tuned for more from the FNCS after this. What is going on, Fortnite fam? Welcome back to the Fortnite Champion Series. I'm your host, Zeke, and joining us here on the analyst desk, we got Shadow Wager and we got Monster D-Face, my other half. The people still cannot tell us apart, but here we are. That's right, we're two separate people. With that being said, guys, we're getting ready. The tail end of the competition. This is it. The last leg before Heat's happening this upcoming Friday. With 3 games left, what we've seen so far, Shy, is that it could still be anyone's game.
It always is. I feel like after maybe the day 2 of qualifiers, people kind of adapted to the format in round number 3, and it's literally tied in so many different places. I believe first and second is also so close, and this game's going to be a big one.
That's right. Well, we don't have to wait too much longer. We're getting ready to hop into game number 3. Let's send it out over to Sundown and Aussie Antics to take us in.
Thank you so much, Zeke, Monster, and Shio. My name's Sundown here with Aussie Antics. Welcome to the FNCS NA East Qualifier number 4, aka the final opportunity for players to make it to the heats or to gain those series points to slide in based off of consistency. And we're going to kick it off with what we know best. Clicks in the early game, picking up eliminations. Again, we are jumping a little bit in. You can see a number of players have already been taken down, but Clicks taking down reverse 2K right there for a huge elim, Aussie.
Huge elim, and if you get a bit confused, we obviously have jumped in this game a little bit further down the line. There are 81 players alive, so we skipped that early drop. Clicks has now moved out of Pleasant. He does. He finds his path with reverse. I don't think they've actually kind of found their way into each other at all in these last finals. They've both played so often, so big elimination there onto reverse. Maybe that consistency we've seen from him in the finals not going to be there today. He's obviously already qualified, and we touched on it in the pre-show. We haven't touched on it too much since, though. They have been getting... There is so much money on the line still at the end of the day for these players. Like, winning this is not just about obviously qualifying for heat, which is so important because the FNCS finals has some big prize money. There's big prize money up for grabs today as well. So people like Reverse, who've been in that top 5, top 10 situation, still have a lot to gain by pushing and having those big days too, as Kanata's looking to do here because he came top 5 in day 1 as well.
It's all about getting up there, claiming the clout for winning the region, but then also money for qualifying into the grand finals. It's always nice to get a little bit more of that bread. But Canada is a big fan of just making sure he's consistent, putting up performance. He's somebody who's really prideful in making sure he's able to get the points that he feels like he's able to get and then execute his own game plan. Somebody who we've seen both able to play aggressive early and execute in the late game. And right now you can see he's just trying to own as much real estate as possible right around this bridge on the inside of the zone. Posting up by the river, never necessarily a bad idea because it gives you additional rotation options. However, he is only sitting at that 150 effective HP mark, so it's going to be tough for Canada if he does get in an engagement.
Yeah, I think Khan is one of those players that's done so well when it comes to solo cash cups and these stack lobbies. Usually it's kind of one or the other. You touched on it earlier with Unknown Army. Plays so well in cash cups, but really struggling in these set lobby formats. But Kanata really showing that he can kind of just change his gameplay and work well with both. As Cracked coming in here, he cracked Kanata, but that was more than enough time for Kanata to get his meds off. But Crack sneaking on up with the crouch. Maybe Kanata's not aware of this. Comes around the corner. He hasn't heard him. Now he hears him. The crash pad comes out. Kanata was ready for it at the last moment. This player playing a little bit too aggressive here, in my opinion. Got some good damage out, but the Marauders, though, having a final say. I believe that rocket came in from a Marauder as Kanata opens up the edit. This could be his game number 4 here, done and dusted. He's not careful. 52 health, has to get those minis off, but that's all he's got for meds, and that crash pad being used to break him out. He has 12 crash pads here. No, the beautiful edit just gets the toes of Cracked, and that's enough to deal the damage. That would have been a big misplay from Kanata there if he went down. 12 crash pads in the inventory, but now he's got to deal with this pack of Marauders, and not only is it dealing with the Marauders, and there's a lot of big ones in this pack, it's also the enemies that can now push up, hearing all this commotion and hearing all these shots. So Kanata's got to get him out of there quickly and make sure he builds a base and gets his health back.
And one thing, if you are dealing to struggle with Marauders, kind of in this tight little quarters, you can see Canada doing a good job. Those peanut butter edits, the ones you practice in the box fights, do a good job of making sure you stay covered and you don't allow multiple people to hit you. You want to make sure you establish those boxes right away so they don't come in and just grief your game and again send you right back to lobby. You can see Mooney and Apartha were lurking nearby when they kind of resolve this. Also, you want to make sure that once you have a couple down, resolving the Marauders all the way through is generally helpful. There's a number of good loot options that they can drop, both from the hunting rifles to the stink bombs, that give you a different kind of approach to the game, but also can force people off and allow you to take action. You can see kind of there, will finally clean up that last Marauder and begin picking through the loot, seeing if he's able to find maybe any extra shields, anything that could possibly give him a little bit of an upgrade. Going to opt, though, right now to just stick with those 6 crash pads.
12 crash pads now. Well, rather, yeah, 6 over the Rockets. It shows how strong they are, but I think it's a good choice there from Kanata. We've seen how good they are aggressively to get refreshes, but how good they are defensively as well. Could maybe use those stings from the players around him to clear it out a little bit, but he can just sit here and there you go. He's got this extra utility now. He doesn't have to carry it into endgame, but he can just pick it up, use it a little bit here. Oh, we might see the double rocket, the double solo rocket. There's no reason not to, and he gets the shot in. There we go. Oh, he gets the double in. Mooney somehow lets not 1, but 2 rockets in back to back. Fool me once, shame on you, but Mooney, shame on you. Fooled you twice in a row with the exact same play. Probably wasn't expecting Kanata to have 2 of them, rightfully so.
Yeah, well done from Kanata there. And this is actually something I want to talk about, which I've heard rumblings of this on NA East, but some players have started to actually just drop their rockets in general. As now we're going to flip on over to a replay from Bucky. Playing an ambush out of the cornfield, sneaks on up there. Will get a couple of those rifle shots. We'll wait for the server replay to catch up. Will execute on that elimination. You can see him picking that one up. So good job from Bucky there, as we're now going to swing back on over. But as I was talking about, I've heard rumblings of this happening, but haven't necessarily seen it, where if players encounter rockets and they don't anticipate using them, they'll either just fire them off or pick them up and drop them somewhere away from the other loot, with the idea being that you don't want to trickle down rockets to whoever ends up picking up that shockwave grenade launcher. So by just leaving them back out on the map somewhere and not carrying them in the inventory, you're ultimately denying that player, if they are able to pick up an elim on you, and giving them less options in the game. And I thought that's what Kanata was going to do, but he does a little galaxy brain mine in that regard and was able to pick up an elim. And you can see there the format flying in. There's so much kind of presence in terms of getting to that top 5. There's so much importance put on it. There's so many more points, and it's so highly valued if you're able to consistently make those end games. This is what the format really relies. As we hop on board here with Fatch, who has a real priority on this zone. If you check that bottom right hand corner, he's directly on top of the safe zone, but more importantly, he's on a hill on the highest point on the safe zone in already established hard mats. That's going to be really hard to get him out of this position.
Yeah, he's looking really good. This is definitely a dominant position to be in, and we haven't seen Storm Surge go active, I believe, last game. Usually towards the end of these tournaments, we've talked about Storm Surge a lot today. It doesn't become as big of a deal, as like I described, Storm Surge is usually the way of kind of clearing out the lobby and making sure that it stays at a considerable number where it doesn't get too stacked and these players have to play aggressive, but they'll see that we're already under 70 players here alive and not have to worry too much, but Fatch still kind of keeping up the gas, getting those shots out. And you talked about the placement there, Sundown, as well. Just want to break down the top 2 players. You currently have Miro on 34 points going into this game, but he has an average eliminations of 4.67 with only an average placement of 22nd. Contrast that with Smacked, who's in 2nd place, 4 points behind, who only has an average elimination of 2, so it's half of that, but then has an average placement of 11. So placing more consistently. So Miro, without that massive elimination game, which we do have to count, obviously, it's more, can Miro keep dropping those? Can he get another one? Because he's going to need it. If he doesn't find some consistency, he's not going to close out this tournament in 1st place.
Which is what it's all about, maintaining that consistent play style. And when you're reliant on consistency to really climb up the leaderboard, one early exit can end up being just devastating to your game, as we saw to Thomas, who ended up kind of getting stuck in a rut from that early on when he was really reliant upon it. And it's difficult in solos to be able to chain together that consistency. That's why we put so much praise on the players who are able to make every single one of these round 3s and the ones who are able to repeatedly make it into these end games and these stacked lobbies. And speaking of one of those players, P-God on board with him, 27 points right now. The Peruvian player doing his best to rotate through, utilizing the old builds, trying not to burn as much as the utility, because you do see he is on just under 70 mats there. So wants to kind of keep as much as he can and not expose himself too much. Does have the 1 crash pad and the 1 launch pad as well, so some longer range rotational options available to him, but he could really use a refresh.
Yeah, he's going to need a refresh pretty soon. He has that 1 single crash pad, which we've seen time and time again is enough to get it. But unfortunately, building up here, he switched those hard mats, prioritizing the brick and the metal, because obviously it does have more health and will usually lead you to get targeted less. But no, this is usually, I think, a 4 or 5 way affair here where P-God has just become the target for the whole lobby and he goes down. Quite often, you can try and argue that's luck or just bad luck. Man, solo is just so annoying. But at the end of the day, it is how you rotate it. It is your positioning. And P-God, normally a little bit more consistent than that. Unfortunately, something went a little bit wrong long with this rotate, and now he might have about 10-20 minutes to go back into the replays, try and figure out what went wrong to come into these final games.
So what exactly went wrong there was the fact that he opted to build up above already pre-made structures. So now you see this fresh brick and this fresh metal right on the edge of zone from a player who's kind of trying to like sneak in there, and everyone else who's already established on the edge of zone has nothing to do but to shoot that player. So as soon as one person decides to shoot you there, you're going to get exposed. There's no reason for him to build up and kind of expose that. He would have been much better just kind of making a little jank box already on the pre-built on the ground floor and tossing himself in a cone and waiting. He had a crash pad, he had a launch pad to be able to make the next long rotation. There was no need to build up and kind of expose yourself and give multiple people angles to take you down, and he's going to have to go back and think on that as now we flip on over to Parur here. 0 eliminations, but currently 18 points, so kind of right on the cusp of pushing towards that 21-point line that we've talked about has so often been the automatic push into heats. And don't forget, there's only 3 games left, so if you're going to make a play, you need to be making them now, and Built Diff did not build different there. In fact, he did stuff pretty standard, not necessarily able to control his box around him, and Parur punishing him.
Yes, that one crash pad straight, and he did well with the epic tack, and that's what we're seeing is these crash pads are utilized more and more. I think a lot of these players prioritizing that tactical shotgun. We saw last game, Clix had the choice. He directly had the choice. He had a legendary charge in the inventory, and he found a tack, and he switched it up for the tack. That higher fire rate when you get into the box to close someone out. As Booger getting some beautiful shots on a fired here, trying to get in to see if he can close out. Someone else trying to go for his elimination, trying to make them back off as well. Here it comes, crash pad in the pog. Is he going to go back in? He does go in, but that player was going out as he went in. Booger trying to find his way back through again with another one, needs to find him, and there it is, turns and takes down fired. Booger gets his refreshes on 19 points, which a great performance so far here today, but high expectations on Booger, and it's one of those things that these pro players have to deal with. Booger has won World Cup. He has proven at one point in this game he was the best player in the world, and he needs to hold on to that.
You can see there the winner of every region finals will have at least 17 points after game 3, so that's 25th and above currently. High enough to ride that ride and continue making that statistic true. We've yet to see somebody really be able to chain together 3 huge games on the backside. Generally, we've seen about 2 out of 3 solid games. It's really hard to be consistent over the course of all of your games or to have multiple pop-off games, but right now, we're seeing potential for it. Miro's already been able to establish himself. You have Vanished Bank and Booger right next to each other. Big Mini over on the side there. Such a clutch, and Luminosity Gaming slacks. Going for the bounce pad battle, and Clutch actually clutch it up and slacks. Caught slack in there, not quite going to be able to find the elimination. Nice little refresh for such a clutch. It does get an upgrade too there to the epic charge shotgun, and also slacks going down outside of the top 50, so not going to get that top 50% placement point going through. So really unfortunate. It's so tough when you go down in that position. It's such a huge hit to the mental, but here you go. You see the zone reveal, and instantly everybody popping the crash pads, trying to angle themselves towards that half-in, half-out zone. Check the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Everybody trying to head to the safe zone, but while Booger's doing that, pushing into the box, taking out Big Mini, taking advantage of the other player, trying to third-party across and getting a huge pick. Well done from the World Cup solo champion.
Yeah, and it is. It's taking that advantage. A lot of players, when everyone's rotating in, like you said, they're hitting the crash pads, hitting the launch pads. It's good beams out of the sky, but when you're firing off that AR, you can't hear what's going on around you. He didn't hear the Booger was next to him. He was tunnel visioned out that window, and then Booger came straight as we see Kanata shooting at him as he catches this player out of the cone, and we see that Kanata has converted an impressive 50% of his games into a top 15 placement. That statistic is ridiculous. He is versing 99 of the other best players in his region. If he makes it into, if he gets off spawn, he will almost guarantee he gets top 15. 50% of his games is looking like it's going to go that way today with those 12 crash pads still in the inventory.
Yeah, and 12 crash pads is a lot of mayhem you're going to be able to cause both rotationally and aggressively if you so choose. And you can see him opting to split and drop half of his mats. Why is he doing it? So he'll be able to utilize the maximum amount, tunnel through, and then double back to the layer. But he also needs to be careful that he doesn't get ambushed while it's going on. As we're transitioning into the late game, in action is about to go down. Don't forget, only 3 games left. 2 more after this. So players wanting to make a claim in the heats and push forward need to make their moves now. And speaking of, here they come. Crash pads begin popping out. We're on board here. Optimal Ambition, Who Fishy, trying to find some shots. He's been so absurdly consistent over the course here. He's just above that Storm Surge threshold where 12 players have to go down. Reloads, one of the current leaders, picks up Lazard, and we have 41 players left. Rocks goes down in 41st, so everyone else picking up another placement point, but Whofishy trying to find a layer right now and find a pick as he begins this rotation. We'll wait for a second here as the server does cache up all the crash pads and all the builds. Do make it a little heavy there, but Whofishy finds an uncontested layer, uses another crash pad on a rotation. He's going to find the front side of the zone again.
He's looking good here on front side too. Whofishy trying to make a claim, trying to back up Monster here, and all the confidence that he's put in him. He's playing this well so far. Gonna go through these ground peaks, and there it is, takes it down. Whofishy finds little baby Gonzo, and that's it. Those floor peaks are so deadly because other players can't retaliate. Now he's gonna try and make his way back through this with the crash pads that he does have and get back to front side.
And you can see there's such a caution to roller on the low ground. Whofishy picking up, he quits. It's his second elim. He had 0 when we first hopped on board. Reloads goes down, so some opportunity and room at the top of the leaderboard. Second crash pad coming out from Whofishy, still has 5 more and still on the front side of the zone. As Booga will pick up Purrs as well, and we're closing in on top 25. That'll be another placement point for everyone going over. But watch for Whofishy to look for more of those floor peaks. Does own the wall here, will get the window edit. The question is he able to follow up and get the tags down? Miro also still in the lobby, as well as Zate, who got in for the top 25. Chubbs will go down just after getting that point, but it's still on Whofishy with 40 builds just below ultimate high.
Yeah, we have to think maybe Zate is that player on high ground with that shockwave launch. It's the first time we've seen him in these end games, but he could make a big wave for it here as Whofishy goes down, and Stacky, who just jumped above him there, and Miro is the one that's going for high ground right now, and it is of course Zate on the high ground. I have to think he has that shockwave launch in the back pocket. Miro realizing that drops down, leaves it up to him as Bucky is still in this as well. Clicks is still in this. We have so many big names, and I want to see how Zate can shake up this lobby. Can he show Shio correct that when he makes it to endgame with that shockwave launcher, he'll be as dominant as I expect him to be? As Bucky picks up clicks, we have a who's who of the big names of NA East in this endgame. Kanata gets dropped down to low. He's now made into top 15 as that statistic from Prodigy Analytics being proven correct here. Makes it as he looks back through these angles, trying to find what he can on this ultimate low ground. Miro picks up another elimination, and Kanata just going to try and close this game out as best he can on 31 points. Already qualified. Can he beat his top 5 placing from earlier in the qualifiers and try and jump up into that top 3 position as Zate has a commanding position on this high ground?
And Miro did get taken out just outside the top 10. Canada, Bucky, Zate still in. Sir Pokalot also picking up an elim there as we close in on top 5. That'll be the next placement threshold. So everyone trying to hold fast, looking for elims and whatever you can in Canada. Huge burst shots coming out there from the legendary AR, trying to continue his run. The TSM player has been dominant in solo since his signing and looking to continue that run. Finds a big pick onto Kodo on the backside of the storm. Gets a couple of key mats there, but also takes a little bit of a tag. Needs to be aware of his shield. Will get the upgrade on the shotgun there. And Sir Pukalat picking up an elim there onto Bucky as well. I'm probably butchering that name, but I apologize. Trying to read it fast off the elim feed. Closing in on top 5 there. Huge shot from Canada there as Big Shark also takes down Bogey. And we're into the top 5. Canada looks to turn around. Can't get the reaction though. And Circa Palat picks up a one there, but it's Zate on the high ground, Aussie, and no one shooting back at him.
Can Zate close it out? Can he get his big game here? I believe it is Sir Capelot. Will he be capping here? And that's it. He doesn't even make it into Storm, and Zate wins it by doing very little here on the high ground, but I'm sure the analyst can throw his back and show us exactly what he was doing those Sundowns. There's no way he was sitting up there doing nothing, but only 2 eliminations in the win.
Doing nothing is not something I would call controlling high ground in a lobby like that. Look at the architecture and everyone going through. Even if he's not converting it into elims, the control is enough, but we'll see exactly what went down with Shio, Monster, and Zeke.
Thank you so much, guys. Great cast there in game number 4 on the day. Zate, I mean, he making a comeback. Shy, you made this prediction earlier on before the broadcast began. You let the world know. You may have spoken it into existence, man.
My mind was saying that like Zate's gonna win out, but I think his win condition, I forgot, is to just qualify, so to hit that top 50 slot. So we'll see if he gets that done. Still though, the top 10 are also shaking up. That victory royale takes it away from Miro, takes it away from a lot of the people in the top 10, and they don't get as many points.
Yeah,
you don't look at this.
Holding strong.
So I was going to say, things are holding strong. Miro's starting to gap the competition here. Even with Kanata's great performance, he's on a little bit of a streak now. Finally, players breaking into that double-digit mark for elims, getting closer and closer to Miro. But Miro's got a bit more placement working in his favor. He's gapping it up the competition. That's 9-point lead now over Kanata. Stacky steps up to the plate this time around. 13 elims, 34 points, tied with Class, who is outshining him in average placements as well at 34 here, Zeke.
Yeah, but I mean, looking back at Kanata, he's trying to make that run, right? He's still keeping close. He's in that last game, even just placing 4th with the 5 eliminations is what's keeping him kind of close to Miro. Now, kind of like what you said, Miro is starting to pull away. So for these 3, Kanata, Stacky, and Class, if they want to hope to keep up, they need to make some moves in these next 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, all the whole top 10 are moving away all the way up near 30 points. Still, top 20 is not too far behind. It's just a 5-point, 6-point differential with Sir Capalot all the way there at 20th place. If he just gets half the placement points available, even less than half, he can get all the way back up near Miro, near the people near the top. It's so close. Booga got taken out. He just had maybe 1 or 2 more placement points over there at 12th place. He could have been in the top 10. Every single game now and every qualifier is getting so close.
Let's not forget, for the players here as well, these are their potential top 50 slots. We want to say, being at like 24 points or so, you probably made your way to heats, right? The cutoff was about 21. I'm seeing a lot of fresh faces tune in here as far as this next page goes. So it is great to see some players pushing their way to heats, almost done solidifying themselves, but the battle is still on for the others as we continue to brush past the 30th plus place and now hit these later pages here. Players like Zate, like we said, getting a victory royale, not in any flashy fashion by any means. 2 elims with the 14 points on the victory royale is only 16 points. If he's, he was at a 0 coming into this, so the lucky run or the big run he had, he can't keep that, or he can't keep being on 0. Like where he's at right now, even with the win, is not enough.
Yeah, he's side by side by Keox, who's also landing at his spot in the leaderboards. And now in game 2, it's going to be difficult for Zay, and he needs to get that top 50 if he wants to rely on qualification. Remember, it's top 50 out of 100 players.
That's right. We're going to keep the ball rolling here. I believe you guys have some cool things to break down with us, especially with some of these players rising and some of them falling.
Absolutely. When it comes to what's going down right now, that was an update over from game number 4 coming into the 5th game. These are all the players who are now in that top 5 slot, or even in the top 10, who now introduce themselves. It's Kanata with double RPG eliminations, so good in the early game, translating that to position towards the end game and showing why he's now overall in 2nd place after playing 2 games really well out of the 4.
Not only that, just look at the loadout, right? He had 12 crash pads coming in. There's no surprise why he's going to make it into top 10 here. He had all the mobility, all the rotations he needed, and the maxed out materials to go with it. So we're talking about beautiful playing from Kanata, great play style being put into effect. You guys get to see that Elim kind of ran it back there as he does make the quick edit, and the bop, which is a huge one, right? That's the refresher that keeps him in the game and slowly breaks his way towards top 5. Remember, as players drop here, more and more placement points are divvied out, and this is why Kanata's grabbed his way up to the top here. Let's not forget, it's not just Kanata who's in the running here. It's not just him who's in the question now, breaking into top 10. You have other players, right? This is where he falls. You have other players like Stacky here now, who we haven't shown a lot of on our segments, but has been climbing up viciously up the leaderboard.
Yeah, this is another one of those playstyle switches. Kanata, very good at being kind of patient. Stacky, though, is 10 times better, in my opinion, at waiting and getting that elimination properly, managing his materials, and getting towards endgame. Yes, if you're more patient, you'll have slower games overall, and you might not be as of a pop-off player. Maybe that's why Kanata's in 2nd and Stacky's in 3rd, but just look at this. Every shot that's hitting is pre-placed when it comes to his crosshair. Every elimination is wrapped up in just a mere amount of seconds, and he knows exactly where to go next. He's holding 3rd very strong. If Kanata even shakes up, even Miro gets faltered earlier mid-game, I feel like Stacky could just take this day 4 by storm.
That's right, and I mean, we saw players like Dubs do the same thing with that Fortilla loop, but on the other side, it's my prediction that 2 Fishy is popping off right now. He went a little quiet, he was a little dormant come the middle of the pack, the mid-game, but now all of a sudden turning back up in the later half of the competition. Once again, finding his stride, finding his elims, not being stumped on those moving zones this time. This crash pad play, of course, is going to allow him to, again, excel himself, excel his way towards placement, and now be back in the top 10. He was hovering on that 2nd page for a little too long. Now he's back in the limelight.
Right now, it's kind of like a 3-way battle, right? Because you got to look at Kanata and Stacky. When you're looking at these players, like, for instance, Stacky is one of these people that, out of his 4 games, has had 1 game out of top 20. Kanata has 2 second places with a handful of eliminations. So, guys, it's time to get back in the game. Let's send it back over to Aussie and Sundown to take it away.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Game number 5 underway. My name is Sundown, joined here by Aussie Antics, and these players have 2 games left to either push themselves up to that top spot and overtake Mira, or guarantee their chance in the heats, or secure as many possible series points to get a shot to play in them. It all comes down to these last 2 matches. Aussie, who do you have your eyes on?
I mean, honestly, Miro has been so impressive. It's so easy to call out the first place, but Miro, we've seen him time and time again in all these final days. I've had the absolute privilege and joy of commentating all of these finals 3 rounds, and Click's taking down Nerf. So honestly, I really want to see Miro just close it out here and show why he was someone that I mentioned you should be looking out for early today, because not only is he going to hopefully win today, he does it in such entertaining fashion. I mean, that's the end of the day what makes Fortnite competitive so good. So I'm keeping an eye on Miro because I want to see him close this one out. But again, Kanata, he's already been top 5. You can never count him out. If anyone's going to have 2 strong games to close it out, it's going to be Kanata.
Yeah, we already see Clicks there picking up an Elim, but now last game winner, NRG Zate, affectionately known as the godfather of NA East Fortnite. You can see here has placed first in game 4 in each of his last 3 Cash Cups, as well as FNCS. So I guess 4 is Zate's lucky number here, but the question is, can he kind of buck the trend of our game winners not necessarily always doing the best afterward? He does have the caddy loot, and the question is, will he opt to stay here or just get out of dodge? Also has the vault key, so going to use the shockwave launcher to re-engage. You can see fires out that box there, could potentially pick up an early elim, but we talked about this before. There he goes, potentially opening the vault there. Yep, there you go. Vault key did get consumed. Just waiting to see that. So we'll have access to loot. Looks like that other player has backed off for now. You can see him using almost all of his mats to secure that space. He does still have a singular one left, but Hogman is looking like he's rotating away, and Zate will be king of caddy.
Yeah, king of caddy, but he needs to pick up the pace right now. He's on 16 points, so he's only just inside top 50, and this is a position we're not used to talking about. I don't think I've ever watched a tournament with Zate in where I'm talking about, is he going to qualify? Zate, one of the absolute competitive veterans here, might not even qualify. He has not made it to any of the final rounds, and this is his first time here, so he needs to keep it in top 50, and dropping caddy corners is a scary spot to do that. If he has a couple of bad games, and you see people like this, Unknown, very scary targets coming on over to have their big games, because Unknown has obviously been dropping Slurpee, this might go against Zate here. He needs to try and have a consistent couple games to make sure he ensures that top 50, because right now top 50 to qualify for heats is 13 points. Zate is only on 16, and that was off 1 win. You can't expect him to get wins every time. If he goes down here, he needs to survive off spawn the last game of today, and he's only done that once here today.
So I will call out Zate, unfortunately, once unable to make it into one of the games, so playing on a little less opportunity there. You do also have Hogman lurking around the outside, potentially trying to play Vulture towards this fight resolution, but it's the tactical shotgun of Unknown Army against Zate. Some NRG on energy dealing here, and the question is, who's going to come out supreme? Traditionally, you would give the lead to the tac shotgun in the box-to-box fight, but Zate does have the mythic charge shotgun of Kit, and additionally has all of those excess shields, so if the tac is able to get any amount of chip damage down, he'll be able to trade it back. Zate lets Unknown in, and Unknown instead just commits to the spray, and Zate gets obliterated. Glizzy Unknown taking that one down, and Hogman uses that opportunity to strike right away. Crash Pad's coming, and he closes the gap before the loot is being able to get secured. So now Hogman actually has priority on the loot. Let's see if he opts to grab it and just get out of dodge, and whether or not Unknown can close the gap. That looked like what Hogman tried to do, but unfortunately the Crash Pad placement itself blocked the loot, so Hogman was unable to grab it. He gets forced into the box, and the SMG spray from NRG, Glizzy Unknown, aka Unknown Army, able to take that one away. He picks up 4 eliminations and all of the caddy loot for his trouble. If he can transition that into the end game, he has an opportunity to finally make a run at it.
Yeah, and if you don't follow the competitive scene in NA or competitive Fortnite in general, there is a bit of history. There's a bit of like story behind Unknown and Zate. Zate, obviously, as Sun has touched on, being the godfather of NA. He runs the prac scene essentially. He is the ultimate name at the end of the day in prac, and there has been a bit of beef there. Unknown Army playing incredibly aggressive, even in those stacked practice games, has been kicked out of there, and Unknown taking down Zate there, that is going to continue the bad blood. Zate may not qualify for heats now due to Unknown Army's aggressiveness. He has been dropping Slurpee Swamps comps this whole time, and with 2 games to go, he swaps it up and goes to Caddy. That is going to blow up in a big way. If this happens again in game 6, it is going to be a big turn of events, and Zay will not be happy if he doesn't qualify at the hands of Unknown Army.
Definitely going to be upset by that. He doesn't want to end up falling, let alone to Unknown. He will never, ever, ever hear the end of it. You know what kind of presence Unknown has across all of the social medias, and you know what kind of presence he has in-game when he's able to get himself rolling. But right now, King getting himself rolling by taking down reloads. Well done with a nice little alley-oop, breaking out the builds underneath him, and then following up right away with a well-placed attack shot. King finally exerting a little bit of pressure on the game. Might be a little too late, though.
A little too late as Unknown trying to have a big jump up into this one. I believe he hasn't come top 50 in any of the qualifying weeks, so he needs to qualify here off consistency, and this game could be the one to do it. He could just jump up into top 50. Unknown, already 5 eliminations on the board of the 24 people that have gone down here. Oh, sorry, 23, just dropping in there, going towards that caddy corners, and now trying to make a little bit more of it. Needs to be careful, though. This is where these kind of aggressive players can go wrong. He is about to get 1 free point for getting inside top 75, so if he takes this fight and somehow goes down, I mean, with that loadout, I'd have to put my money on Unknown, but you never know. It will be a bit of a misplay. If he could just hold off for just a little bit longer until someone inevitably drops somewhere else on the map and then take this fight, it would be a bit smarter, but Unknown doesn't really need to be smart right now because he is being so aggressive, and he's going to try and close this out, as we know Unknown does. Obviously qualified for World Cup solos as a very, very aggressive player, and here it is, showing it here, pushing forward. Worth mentioning as well with Unknown's insane mechanical prowess, he actually plays both inputs, controller and mouse and keyboard, with this much proficiency. So he knows how to take these fights, and he's going to get in, and there it is, takes down Furious, which is no short ass. Furious, another insanely aggressive, very skilled player, and Unknown takes him down and gets the 2-point swing, top 75 and the 1 elimination.
You notice too how he immediately attempts to disengage with the shockwave launcher. Till tries to come in with a crash pad, but Unknown Army says, skeet shooting season, no problem. You're the clay pigeon. Right into the box as well. Holding forward is something Unknown Army does best. Doesn't matter if it's a W key or the plastic controller stick. He'll find the elimination. Zentil regrets playing with his food there. Well done from Unknown Army. 7 eliminations, and there's still 72 players left. Each one of those being worth a point, but you can see the format there on the right-hand side highly favors making it into that end game. But so far, Unknown Army is eliminating tons of players. Opportunity to even get there, as now we're going to swing on board with our current leader, Miro, 45 points. Has an okay loadout in terms of utility, but his weapons definitely lacking in that regard. Just the common charge shotgun and a rare AR to his name. Does have that extra big pot that'll be able to stumble upon right there to top off his shields, but realistically, he's going to need to find some more weaponry if he's going to want to find impact elims. However, I don't think he needs to do that. I think he can stick to his game plan, continue safe rotating, play for the placement points, because if he gets any amount of points here and doesn't get taken down, it's going to make it that much easier. And take a look at the top left corner, NRG, Glizzy, Unknown, falls. So despite the fact that he has those 7 eliminations early on, plus the 1 placement point, it is only an 8-point game for him out of all of that effort, and Punisher is going to be the one who picks up all of Kit's loot.
Punisher looking really good here, who needed to have a good game as well. And like you said, he studies, he plays his game, but running into the caddy loop will probably not play into his game strategy too well, but I'm sure he will adapt, as P got here on 30 points, and Unknown just with over-aggression goes down. I was going to say he maybe was the only person we could see to drop more eliminations in a game than Miro. He was already starting off on 7, but no, it goes down like that. And it's these early and mid fights where they're a lot more volatile and a lot more can go wrong. As much as endgame is the most exciting and arguably the most difficult part to play, it is quite easy to find those eliminations if you pick the right tracks. People are usually having less loot, it's more congested, sometimes they're not as healthy, and just getting those eliminations is good. But P-God now set up here, and Unknown still had a good game though. If he can have one more good game, he should be able to hold his spot in top 50. But it makes me think, with 7 eliminations and that top 75 placement, that was still an 8-point game for Unknown, which was massive. So that strategy, while not working past the mid game, still worked for his points overall. I have to think he's going back caddy corners, and we're going to see an absolute clash of titans between Zayt and Unknown in game 6, and it's all going to be about who can stay in that top 50, who can actually qualify for heats, because as much as we're focusing on that top of the leaderboard, some of these players, this is their last chance to make it to heats, and then inevitably or hopefully make it to the grand finals out of those heats.
Which is what it's all about in the end. If you're not having an opportunity to compete for those grand finals, then was it all worth it in the end? You want to make it past those heats, and those heats are going to be even a step up from how hard this competition was. We've seen how intense the action has been, and now match number 5, such a clutch, trying to find his way into that 21-point territory. We talked about it, the players and what their goals are. As a viewer, what are you paying attention to? We're keeping an eye at the battle of the top. Can anybody catch Miro? But for every other player, it's about making it to that 21-point threshold in these last 2 games. Can you do enough to push yourself into qualification? Every single point could matter, because it could be the difference of you getting those series points you need to qualify for a spot in the heats versus not. And right now, such a clutch looking to come up clutch, but nobody quite exposing themselves to that hunting rifle shot just quite yet.
Yeah, it's a good strategy with what he has in the back pocket. If he gets into a long, drawn-out fight and he takes some shield damage, he's got nothing to replenish that. So he's just trying to go for that one hunting rifle tap to get himself back into this game, as we've seen so many people do here today, sitting out in that corner where no one can see in. But if he goes close enough to the edge, he can see out to try and find that elimination, and he's holding on to it. Needs to be careful, though. Every time he moves and rustles, there is a little bit of a visual cue and an audio cue for players around, but there's not too many players. But there is someone coming out from Storm. I'm looking in the bottom right on that minimap. You see that player coming out through the blue line in that pink Storm area. Such a clutch does not know he's there, so that could have been what he needed. Abo boxes up behind him. He does not see it. He's going to keep making that rotate, hunting rifle out, just looking for any opportunity to get that one big shot to get him back in the game.
Which is generally the weapon you want to keep out. If you're traveling in this circumstance and you have a sniper rifle or a long-range one-shot, one-elimination threat, you want it out so you can have that quick little threat. Otherwise, you want to have the AR out so you can return damage, and boom, that's what we're talking about. Keox, you can't do it. We've talked about it so many times. Once you're in this endgame situation, yes, in arena, yes, in a cash cup, you can pause and take those assault rifle shots. You have to assume somebody is watching you. You are too good of a player to be caught off like that, and such a clutch is going to get his refresh and now a second breath of life to potentially push himself into the automatic qualification. I know we've seen him before. Not sure if he's pushed up in that top 50, but now on board here, VSB Panda boxed up in the cone, checking his surroundings. There's first place Mira rotating through the river, who just takes a ton of damage right there. But now we're going to fly on over. Here's the fight between Complexity's Punisher, the Frenchman, and NRG. Glizzy, unknown, trying to get aggressive on him here, but Punisher does a great job to get the cone over the top. And I think that's something Unknown actually does a little too often, is he commits to the swap and sticks with his AR after his first shot. Whereas Punisher there, staying with his shotgun, was able to get more follow-up damage quickly, and Unknown, unfortunately, not able to get that. And it looked like Miro did go down there and get picked off on that rotation. So we saw him get chosen by the lobby, making a fool's choice, staying kind of on that lower area, not enough sightline in between, right on the edge of zone. And we've talked about it, Ozzy, that's a dangerous spot to be rotating through.
Yeah, very dangerous spot. And Panda there on 21 points, down leaderboard a little bit, taking out number 1, and that's all it takes. Miro goes down on 44 points. He still did have a 9-point lead over Kanata, so we're looking for the Kanata Stacky class to overtake. And here it is. We're going to get a bit of a replay here to catch up what we've missed here. How Panda managed to take out the first place player in this tournament, and it looks like it's probably not going to be anything too flashy. Just unfortunately, like you said, Sundown, building up a little bit and making yourself the focus of the lobby as Panda looks down the sights of that AR and gets the 98 damage, and that's it. Miro just getting focused by too many people to handle, and he goes down just like that.
Now you can check the bottom right-hand corner. You see that right triangle in the middle that's spinning around? That's P-God. That's who we're looking at, and he has priority on the next zone. So zone number 3, zone number 4 will be the last one that is completely inside the new safe zone. Then zone number 5 is that half in, half out, or the first moving zone that we consider. That's when you really kind of get into the mid, transitioning into the late game. That's where you see all the tunnels, all the utility get used, players finding picks, and a bunch of eliminations occur. After that, we end up having the full moving circle. So right now, because P-God is central, the 4th zone is more than likely going to be in his position. That means he doesn't have to move at all. He gets to chill, he gets to look for picks, and boom, as I say, that fourth zone revealed in the right-hand corner. He's on the edge, and he will have majority of the lobby being forced to rotate into his position, giving him an opportunity to do just that, getting key rifle tags that now he can potentially try to exploit. Crash pad in 89 in the phased ramp right away to pick up Nutex. Brilliantly done by P-God, the Peruvian hero.
P-God looking to hold on to the loot now as well. Someone pushing a little bit over. He's got plenty here, but he needs to hold on to it now. He's pulling those crash pads back in the build to make sure he carries them. Like we saw Kanata running 12 of them last game, and that did secure him that top 10. They are so important for getting towards that end game as everyone's kind of boxing up here now on top of this hill. Seeing some good shots come out here from Redux on someone who was up on top of potentially that antenna. Good spot to be, the windmill, I should say, sorry. Oh, trying to fly behind it for cover, but Redux, clinical aim right now, just taking shots out of the skies. Everyone's coming across trying to make this rotate. 60 players alive. Redux on 13 points, so he's hovering right around that top 50. So he's currently just in it. He came into this game just around 40th place, so he needs to hold on to what he has so far. And Redux looking to try and do just that as we're pushing towards top 50 for those extra placement thresholds, which 1 point, like we've talked about so much today, is going to be so important as Storm Surge shows itself. And again, if you're unfamiliar with competitive Fortnite and you haven't seen Storm Surge before, it is just a threshold that players have to be above to make sure they're not the player in the lobby that's done the least amount of damage. Otherwise, they're going to start taking damage if not enough players go down. So right now, you have before until this zone closes for 8 more people to go down. Otherwise, you need to be above that threshold.
It can anticipate the players who are below it to be looking for picks, forcing action going through, which will potentially cause them to expose themselves a little more. Right now, you can see Rokane, one of the 3 players who's qualified for every single one in a box, has rocks right next to him, and we're going to pick up with his perspective as Vexifier picks up Noob Teo, living up to his name there. Degen gets Dictate, and before this game, no players with 6 eliminations finished outside of the top 35 in any region, which is something we've talked about before, where really that if you're looking for those big elimination games, you have to make endgame because you actually just don't get that many interactions early on. Unknown Army proving that different by going towards Catty Corner in the later stages, which we've seen be a magnet for the desperate, for the people who are looking for those big point games, knowing that, like, hey, Kit's loot equals win, right? It's overpowered. Okay, I got to go there and get it. Well, getting it's a little harder than you think. We very rarely will see the player who starts with it finish with it all the way out. That's such a hard skill to do, as Rox now gets caught between a rock and a hard place during his rotation.
Yeah, Rock's getting stuck right up against it, but he does have that 1 mini, but that's all he's got now. He's going to be up to 125, which is not a lot of health here to make it towards his endgame. Being pretty blessed with zone, which is not too bad. And it's when you force those early and mid-game fights, these endgame fights like this, the Rocks might be able to take just are so much more advantageous. They happen so much quicker and so much less chance to react as Surge goes down here and Rocks gets the refresh he needed. And I believe there were some spare shields. I see some minis, and he's going to get a nice little upgrade there. And that's what it is. It's so much easier to get these eliminations endgame. I mean, I say easier. There's just less chance of other players coming in, less variables you have to account for, and that end game, like we saw from Miro earlier, he dropped so many limbs at the end. If Unknown can do what we wanted Clicks to do so badly as well, make that end game, he will be in a good spot. But Rokane, a very consistent player here. He's only got that blue burst AR, which unfortunately, until he gets the epic and legendary variant, not really a weapon of most players' choice, but can still put it to good use here. He has 1 crash pad in the inventory, trying to take these shots and just command this high ground position. You see high ground not being as advantageous in this current meta unless you have that shockwave launcher, because the shockwave launcher is the ultimate height control item as he gets the elimination on the Crumbler. But having in these early stages just to keep away from all those players beneath, which are just scattering and trying to fight and have those desperate movements, is still a good position. But I'd expect to see Rokane launch pad or crash pad off here as soon as the first moving zone shows itself in 5 seconds.
I was about to ask how he got that elimination, but I'm positive that the tagged player he hit was the one who was under pressure from Storm Surge, because there was 51 players left.
Most likely.
And then Storm Surge ticked him over. So unfortunate for Crumbler there, but sometimes that's how the cookie crumbles, and elimination credit will go right on over to Rokane. And now we're going to pick it up back on board here with Built by Gamers Bucky, trying to find an angle, doing his best to sit in a cone to potentially get one of those ambush opportunities. However, you can see a number of players right nearby him, one in the cone immediately next to him, and he sees that. That could be it. However, going to let that player go by and instead just opt to take a launch pad and go immediately to far side of the zone, because these Storm Surge will tick on again. 17 players will need to fall here. As fast it does fall to Punisher, Bucky's going to get himself above Storm Surge there by taking out Class on the high ground, and gives him good priority on the zone now too.
He does have good priority on zone. Bucky using his only mobility though, so he needs to try and find something to get back into this one if he can, or he's just going to have superior rotates. Bucky having good materials, which should be more than enough for him, but it's going to make it just that little bit harder where he can't go that same distance you'd like. P got in here. I'm pretty sure Punisher's still in here as well. He has that shockwave launcher, so we know that he is commanding this endgame in a great position. I have to imagine he's going to take that high ground if he can, but I touched on it earlier. Punisher's not a player used to getting that weapon, so can he hold on to it and use it as effectively as players like Zayt, who are used to having it and won his last game, as Skittles making his way through with 1 elimination, only 30 builds left, just trying to get a breath of fresh air and get through all these builds and get to the front side as he does, but he's pushed down to 9 builds. He needs to identify where is he going to get his refresh, who is going to give it to him. He's ARing back in the zone, but at the same time he needs to get someone close enough where he can get the loot off. An elimination will help him right now, but not as much as the material and everything else he'll gain for it, as Clicks falls now as well, and Skittles just trying desperately to find something. He's back in old builds. He's hunting this enemy. He's following his path as 2 players collide, so he can third party that from the outside, and he does. Gets that elimination. Goes up to 42 builds total now, as you can see at the bottom there. Looking good, but is it enough to get him again, or does he need another refresh now, Sundown?
And as the server catches up, I definitely think he needs a refresh, just in the sense of finding some more materials. With only 17 left, and it being the 7th zone, he's going to need some more to make the rotations, especially with that utility. We see the Big Shark picking up a nice little double elim as we close in on top 20, and another placement threshold. Such a clutch is going to force Cobalt outside of that. Great drop down there from Skittles, picking up Beast AFK. Beast might as well have been AFK, and Punisher will go down to Redux as well, so that could be Kit's loot either changing hands or out of play. XX Shark picks up such a clutch, and Who Fishy gets Starving Box You to keep us into the top 15. Let's take a look at the wide now. You see Rokane picking up the roller on the low ground, but Big Shark is right on his tail, as now we flip on over to Who Fishy. Angled ramp with the crash pad, pushing him farther ahead of zone, but what can he do with that information as we get closer to the top 10? And we have it as Fearful picks up AE 13.
And Who Fishy looking to jump up there. 40 points. He's been so consistent, but a heavy shot pushes him back, but no wraps around the 159. This player's on the back foot now. He's reeling, but Who Fishy isn't too healthy himself. He needs to close this out somehow. He has no builds. How does he get down? He's stuck. He's got nothing. He needs a cypher. He needs something. Someone builds for him. He jumps down. Oh my gosh, Who Fishy, so clinical with it. He had no build stuck up there. He had to make something happen, and make something happen. He did. He got 2 eliminations and 3 more placement points from that. Coming in so clutch, as Fearful on the high ground in such a different position. He's not back against the wall. He has full control, and can he control and close this one out on 19 points? This win could secure his qual into the heats if he has not already. Fearful versus Mooney. Mooney takes high ground, though. He builds up above him, somehow gets the builds out and takes the high ground. Fearful has been in that position this whole time, but now it's on Mooney to jump the side shot, but no, Mooney can't get the shot, and the side jump is too much. He falls. He goes down to fall damage, as Who Fishy almost did, and we're going to have to break that down, Sundown. There is just so much that just happened.
Money Mooney unable to close it out at the end, but Fearful had nothing to fear. He takes the victory round with the 4 elims to push him just above that qualification threshold, but with 1 match left. What do those leaderboards look like, and who is in contention? Gentlemen, break it down for us. Let us know what we need to keep an eye on.
Oh man, that last game is absolutely about to shake up these standings as we know it. We saw before, Shy, Miro was moving ahead, but that may not be the case any longer.
Game 5 is always the game changer for the entire tournament, and it makes Game 6 that much harder to evaluate as to who can win. The standings, though, will help ease that confusion. Let's see who's actually still holding on to the top spot and has a chance at winning everything. There's a change. It's not Miro anymore. It's pure Skittles.
That's right. You can see no longer is Miro gapping the competition. Instead, it's such a close race towards the top. 1 point makes the difference here for Skittles and Miro. So Skittles having a big game, a big gap away for himself to actually come up and be up in the top there. And then Who Fishy, 43 points as well, consistently. That's the pick right there. But it's not just them in the running right now. Everyone else is still close. They are still in the striking distance. Kanata, Clash, Smack, Clicks, and the list goes on.
That's right, man. And Skittles making this all happen on the back of consistent play. Only a single game outside of top 25. Every other game has been below top 25 placement and a handful of eliminations. That's why he's moved himself into first.
Look how similar things are on this page over here from 11th to 20th. The eliminations are not really that different from everyone else within each other. P-God, though, is leading the pack, not only at 11th place, but with 11 eliminations. D-Roller is right behind him. Perur has been here the whole time, too. Rox, we haven't seen too much of just on the broadcast in general, is still lurking in the shadows. We're seeing exactly how he's holding his spot. So many people are so close to each other.
And it's cut close. It's cut close all the way down to the 22nd page here, where you're seeing Rokane, Booga, Furious, and Bank all in that 28-point plus threshold. These are players that can realistically make and break their way into that top 10, being just stars of the qualifying day 4. As we've seen these weeks go on and on, we've only seen more and more close competitions unfold. NA East really being one of the most exciting over the last 2 days as we round out here the 34th through the 40th. These are players that are still trying to battle their way into top 50, whether it be for series points or, of course, to just break into the heats for next week.
Just look at it. 24 points for Cease, 22 for Fatch. A 2-point difference, and that's only down to 40th place. Remember, there are 100 people playing right now, and you need to hit top 50 to qualify.
Man, this is it, the final game of the day. Now, of course, as we're kind of getting ready to head into this final game, we got to set the stage. There's a lot of these players at the very top that are going head to head right now. It is an all-out battle for first place.
Absolutely. Right now, it's a head-to-head matchup all across the leaderboard, all across in-game, similar playstyles going back-to-back. Let's break down a few of them right here. Top spots, first place, third place, all around in the top 10. And these guys are in a matchup with a final boss to face in terms of Miro at second. Right now, my pick is Kanata near that top 5 spot, who's looking so good, going up against Stacky, who we saw in game number 4 was looking so well. Both these guys, though, fell. These are some eliminations from game number 4. Kanata was looking really hot all the way towards that end game. He gets a big one. I think he'll have it over Stacky coming into game 6.
And Kanata has been your guy of the count, right? He's going in. You're seeing the highlights here, but look at Stacky, right? This is someone that I've been keeping an eye out. He's been grinding his way up the leaderboards here. I feel like it's been a while since we've seen him in these other base game modes, but now we have Kanata on screen.
Yeah, I mean, Kanata's right back with it. He's still trying to get some hot eliminations, but those were the updates for him in that game. He got taken out. Didn't get a chance this game, but he's ahead of Stacky Monster.
That's right. And on the other hand, you see just other players that are trying to break their way up and still qualify on the bubble, right? It's multiple of different stories unfolding. Here's P-God, the Hispanic wonder himself, popping off now, becoming a more and more exciting player, taking things over the Holly there.
He's head-to-head with Rox, though, who's very similar to him in the standings overall, and in playstyle too, getting mid-game eliminations, looking so smooth.
That's right, but still, the battle continues on. As you see, breaking into that 30-point threshold is where you want to be.
These guys are tied for 29 points in that last game. Eliminations were the really only thing setting them apart. Rox was looking really hot box-to-box. P-God had his own beams, though.
And look, he's just answering on in, right? Doing up the phases, doing what he needs to do every single time. And I mean, there's big risk involved as well. Someone who isn't playing as risky is Whofish. He's playing for that end game, and it's working out big time here. You can even see players like Skittles finding their frags now, Shayo.
Yep, it's a 3-man battle for first between Whofishy, Skittles, and Miro. Whofishy and Skittles were active in that last game. This was Monster's pick from the beginning, and he's still looking so active now, finally awake, finally realized. Skittles is right behind him on the back foot, getting these shots off vertically, downwards on all angles. Whofishy's looking really good, though, playing in these last moments.
Let's not forget, in the middle of the pack, it is Miro still in second place. He had the big gap, but it's all right. Players like Skittles and now Whofishy are giving it that much more of a close run. He's making sure that they're keeping the competition tight as we're approaching the tail end. Here's your final perspectives from the other angle. Skittles, who had that high ground already, putting the beams down, and he's actually going to catch Whofishy there. So those are big trades, big changes, all for placement, all for scoring now, and that's why it's so close to the top for the battle for the first.
Yeah, in the top 10, Kanata versus Stacky. In the top 20, P-God versus Rox. And for first, it's Miro. I almost messed this up, but Whofishy and also Skittles, who are in first, second, and third place. We'll see how these guys fare up. One more game left, Zeke.
Man, with the victory royale being worth the 14 points, that's where a lot of these players have set their eyes. With that being said, let's get into this. The final game here in NA East of the FNCS. Sundown, Aussie Antics. Let's jump out of the battle bus, boys.
Beep, beep, one more time. It all comes down to this for the final qualification spot. And we have Pure Skittles and Miro 1 point separated. Who Fishy 3 points off of the top. Which one of them will step up and claim the prize? Or, as we've seen in the past couple of days, Aussie, the top players have gone down early. And there have been opportunities potentially for others to steal it away. However, nobody's risen up yet. What do you think will go down?
Oh, it's so hard to know in these final games where people change up their playstyle. We saw Unknown last time change it up and drop Caddy. There's so much that can change in the last game. Not only is this the last game of today, it's the last game of all the qualifiers. This is where you've got players who are maybe around that like 10 points or even lower who are just like, you know what? Go big, go home. There's no point me getting 5 points this game. I need to get 10. And that's where those players at the top are going to have to try and avoid them or going to have to hold their own if they get aggressed on. And that's what's going to shake it up. Pure Skittles here, just around Caddy corners, an area that is quite volatile. As I imagine Unknown is in there, just picked up Zen Till, who we saw there last time. So I think Unknown might still be there trying to make a big name of it. I don't think we've seen Zay go down yet. So this game is going to be a big shake-up Sundown. It's going to be who can hold on and who can climb up. That is the ultimate story that's developing, and it's going to happen in the next 20 or so minutes. So don't miss it, guys. This is the last chance for some of these players to qualify for heats, which are going to be happening next weekend.
This is the very last qualifier round, and right away we see a little bit of the piston metal come out, but I do not anticipate Skittles committing to any early game fights. We've talked about it over and over again. Every single interaction matters. And speaking of every interaction matter, Llama 210, Emad GG calling that one out. Tfue spotted it with the colorblind mode, but Skittles is going to be the one who ultimately will grab that one away, gets all the mats, all the excess utility, the guaranteed launch pad. And you want to talk about just getting gifted an express ride to the late game? Skittles just got it.
Yeah, Skittles just got it indeed. This is just pretty much, if Storm Surge doesn't become an issue right now, he can pretty much avoid fights at all costs now. Just hold on to what he has and get those guaranteed placements. As he has the lead, he's holding on. He doesn't need to set the pace, as we have someone else who's not holding on, who's trying to set the pace. Unknown, 17 points here back at Caddy corners, and I believe that is Zayt, who's the other player here. This could be Zayt's first time not qualifying for a major tournament in this fashion. He might not get top 50 here. He needs to have a good game. I believe Unknown, well, actually Unknown as well on 17 points, and they're pretty close on consistency. If you haven't been following how this FNCS works, half the players are going to qualify straight into heats by getting top 50 in any of these 4 days, this being the last round. The other players, the other half, are going to be qualifying off consistency points. So these fights matter. Oh, an end pen goes down. That extra point could be the difference where even if Unknown doesn't get top 50 today, he could qualify off consistency. But I'm not seeing Zayt. Maybe Zayt identified that as much as he wants to be the alpha, he's known as being Big Zayt in NA East. Maybe he changed up and went somewhere else just to guarantee the fact that he qualifies this last game, or we maybe missed him going down Sundown. I'm not sure.
Now we see Reloads here on the north side of Authority. He's been here a number of times, currently sitting on 34 points. A little bit of a shark dive going on there, but it's not quite Shark Week yet. 2 p.m. tomorrow is when you can check that out, but right now all of the action in the hunting is going on from these players trying to set the absolute last opportunity to get the ambushes and get in here. You can see NutX picking up Dictate, and Storm Surge is not going to be a problem in this game, as we see just past that 70 player mark. The first round of placements have also already gone through, so everybody who's still in the lobby making sure they pick up a point, and none of our top 3 have gone down. Just a reminder for the viewers, what are the names you're looking for? Well, first, Reload's trying to set an ambush here, and that's Surge going down. We just talked about that, but our top 3 right now, Pure Skittles, Miro, OA, Who Fishy. Those are the 3 names that if they drop, it could end up being wide open, or if they pick up eliminations, the pressure ends up going on. Otherwise, if you're keeping an eye on it, you want your players to get above that 21 point threshold. 22 points across every region has been good enough to get you into that top 50, and it will qualify you guaranteed to play in the heats in a shot at the grand finals, which is what all of these players have worked for. But the last buck is right here. You have to do it right now. And Who Fishy has already secured that, but he wants a chance at the very top. However, under pressure around the outside, and that's not a good way to start it off.
No, under pressure from someone. He's got a fair bit of room, though, on the bottom right. You can see those two players. That person took the shots was pretty far away, and I think Fishy knows that. That's why he's stepping back out, making sure that player's left. He wants to try and get some of this fishing loot up. We haven't seen the floppers coming too much into use today, but we have seen the burst rifles doing some serious damage. That was 1 burst rifle and 3 floppers. That is a considerable upgrade as he's going to throw them along and keep carrying what he can. Maybe trying to fish up a few more here for Fishy. But, I mean, Monster said at the start, this is a player who is definitely not unknown, but really hasn't kind of had their rise to prominence and might have their opportunity to do so here today. And Skittles and Miro, also 2 other players that, again, while being very good players in their own right, I feel like we aren't having a clash of titans like we did maybe in day 2 where we had Booger, Stretch going head to head. We have 3 players who've performed so well and might have their chance to say, hey, if you haven't heard about me, this is why you should have. And that's what these qualifiers are all about. As much as these players have already qualified, there is bragging rights on the line. There is confidence to go into those heats knowing that you are the best of the best on one of these days. So why can't it be next week as Booger takes down such a clutch in the feed? One of those players was around that top 50 just trying to secure their qualification.
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and put some respect on Miro's name and say he is right now one of the best in NA, straight up. If you're making it to the round 3, if you're one of 3 players, and then you saw what that list looked like over in Europe and the quality of players who were able to make it there, he's cemented himself. And the fact that he's competing for a #1 finish and putting it all together, if anything, I think gives me more confidence looking forward to the heats. But right now, we see Nosh going up against Trapkilled. Trapkilled had a brilliant performance on the first 2 days, but struggled a little bit here yesterday on the new Axolotl skin. 32 points, though, so far, so doing pretty good job, but wants to clean up this fight. Nosh, another player who's very good box-to-box. Crash Pad going to force him in, making sure he throws it up against it, gets on the backside, maintaining the forward momentum, and he tries to get a disengage out from Nosh. Good job from there. You can see that nice little fly in there. 7 of the current players. I actually missed what the last part was because commentating it, so hopefully Ozzy caught what the back half was.
I caught it. 7 of the top 10 players right now have already qualified directly into the heat, so the other 3 already at this point will definitely stay inside top 50 as Trapkilled trying to jump in and take this elimination onto Nosh, and he does. Nosh goes down, Trapkilled, and he was running low on mats there, and he managed to pick it up, and look at all the shield he has now. A big pickup, and Nosh's game is ended there. I don't think he was too high up on the leaderboard, but someone that could have shaken up these standings and have a big performance. But as we just heard, a lot of those players in the top 10, they've secured their quals already in previous days, or they've guaranteed it here today. There's no way they can drop from the top 10 outside of top 50, but they've got eyes set on the top as Trapkilled cleans out this area outside Steamy.
And well done making sure to resolve that fight. Tough on Nosh, but now we're going to swing on over. Canada was 4th place coming into this game. Again, while just on the outside looking in, only about 10 points off the pace from Skittles, so he is more than capable of winning a match. We've seen it a number of times from him in stacked solo situations. Not yet today, came close towards the end, but if he puts it all together, he could potentially steal away the top spot. And right now, he's in a pretty good position. I will note that a number of players up on the high ground could make his life a little difficult, but trying to find some burst AR shots in there and not quite going to connect. So while first Storm Surge wasn't necessarily a problem, with still 62 players remaining, we could see a little bit of pressure around second stage Storm Surge at Circle 3, and then maybe third stage Storm Surge for Circle 5. However, I anticipate we'll see a little bit more action towards the end.
Yeah, so those end games is what it is. These last few games can be quite tumultuous in the early and mid game, but like we saw from Unknown, those players that are forcing the fights quite often will get inevitably taken out at some point, and then those players that are left that are really just holding on and keeping those end games still incredibly stacked. But it's that first threshold of Storm Surge that normally will be the one you don't have to worry about in these final games. But these players, some of them have been playing. Like we talked about Miro, he played up to 9 hours yesterday with a couple of breaks in between of solos, and now today. You've got to think, do you have the mental composure? Are you a marathon player like Monster and Shire were talking about at the start of today? Can you keep it all together for this final game, or does it all crumble when your brain starts to get that little bit tired? And as we've seen today, those tiny little mistakes is all it takes for these other phenomenal players to take you out and ruin your story.
And we've talked about it so many times about how setting a foundation for yourself is so key, both in terms of getting a mental rhythm and just from the mechanics. If you do get picked off in one of those situations, you're unable to get in, it's so hard to keep warm of a competitive place. Like, yes, you can go in and play creative. Yes, you can pop into arena real quick. Yes, you can go VOD review. But it's so different actually being in one of these lobbies, being pressured, having one of these top level players hounding down on you, desperately looking for a refresh. If you're not actually in that experience, it's so much more difficult to get a rhythm going. But Class, you can see, trying to find a nice little outside rotate. Again, 37 points just on the outside looking in of the top mark. Skittles, I believe, should be right now on 47 points, unless he's picked up an elimination. Haven't seen him in the feed there. As now we switch on over to Booga, trying to get a pick here to push us towards that top 60 using the crash pads. Really good job. If you notice how players are throwing it against the wall to make sure it lands behind them, so they get pushed forward without necessarily influencing their opponent. And Schmexy, you can stay on YouTube there because Booga is going to stay in the game while you're out of it. Fired also picks up a Puerta, and 9 more players will need to go down before we have our top 50 in the second round of placement points.
Booga could have a big performance here and jump up in that top 5, top 10. Booga obviously already qualified, came second in one of the weeks, just fell off pace in the last game against Stretch, but he could jump up here. And already, again, we talked about where he was dropping rig earlier today. Either he's changed his drop spot or he's most definitely changed more of his rotates, usually opting to go for a safer rotate through that boat, but maybe the northeast zone here has changed that, or Booga just wanting to get those eliminations. Got 3 on the board, changing up his playstyle, and one of those players I've talked about you need to try and avoid if you are Skittles, Miro, Who Fishy. As much as they can hold their own and they can take down Booga, it is a chance to go down, but it's also a chance to lose some of that utility and materials you've gained. We saw Skittles got gifted that llama early in the game, the Fortnite gods gifting him, wanting him to get to that end game, but it doesn't matter what you got in the back pocket. If you run into someone like Booga and they close out the fight quickly, it doesn't matter what you had, you're going to lose it.
And the key thing with Booga here, with the crash pads in 6 big pots, he's looking to take trades because he has just so much effective extra shield. That's 300 extra shield he's sitting on that allows him to go and take these trades. That, followed up with a legendary attack shotgun and a legendary burst, gives him so much wall-to-wall pressure and box fighting pressure that if he's able to close the gap and get some pressure onto you, get some damage, it's going to be so difficult to disengage from him. And he's so good at closing out these fights. You can see actually using the Marauders on the backside of the wall to kind of create a pincer here onto his opponent, but going to opt to just back out, reset for a second because he knows he'll have an opportunity to use the crash pad. Gets in the box, 124, finds the second one. That's Rokane, one of the 3 all-time qualifiers. But Booga says, I don't care how many times he qualified. I won a World Cup. I'm pretty good at this solos thing. Great elimination from him there.
Yeah, you may have heard of me and Booga just using those crash pads so effectively, and that's what's causing a lot of issues for some of these players. It's just you can position in those aggressive areas. If you're positioning around the center zone, you're not up and away from people. You're a target for this incredible aggression that is so incredibly hard to stop. When they're up against the walls and they're crash padding in, it's just coming down to shotgun aim. As we see Cease on 26 points, has that grapple gun. He's made it away from authority. Someone that I very easily could see picking up a win who hasn't had such an insane performance today and really jumping up in that leaderboard. He has the loadout to do it. He's got a decent position on the map. What I would expect to have a few more players on this side, it doesn't actually. He's in a nice little spot only because third zone pulled so close to this far edge of second zone, and he's looking pretty good with the loadout he has. He's got 2 epic weapons as the Jally off there, and someone is getting that airdrop. Zeshi it is, who's going to try and get that mobility and just try and jump up. His Clicks has made it through the mid game, and let's see if he can have another pop-off end game,
which could be enough to continue to push that average forward. Again, for Clicks, he's already guaranteed his qualification with a 48th in Qualifier 1 and 16th yesterday, 35 points, largely on the back of his victory royale earlier today, but want to see him put it all together again, just on the outside looking in with an opportunity to overtake these players if he's able to put it all together. But it's going to be so insanely difficult just because of the amount of players who are left. Again, we talked about it. The initial rush off of the start, the players who are playing desperate, trying to chain together elims to get in there. After that, the game's going to calm down a little bit. There's going to be a little bit of a breather. It's going to slow down while people are looking to establish position, not burn their utility because they know this is the last chance. You have to get points here. You have to get in that top 50. You have to get into the late game and get a couple placement points and get chances for opportunities for elims, because you're not guaranteed those just flying around in the early game. And right now it's so absurdly tense. Nobody wants to be the first one to kind of start those engagements, because if you get chosen, that's it. You're done. Your tournament is over, and potentially your FNCS run could be over.
I think we've only seen 8 players go down in that entire third zone coming in, that entire second zone to third zone swap, and I think only 8 people went down, so proving correct that those players that were a bit aggressive and maybe kind of not all mentally there having those aggressive fights are out of here, and now the players that are ready to play, the ones who want to make their 6th game count, want to make their final push into whatever placement they can get, whatever prize money they can get, whatever qualification they can get, it's their chance now. Reverse, set up here on the edge, and Class making some moves, maybe going to go in on him. He is. Class didn't really need this fight too much in Reverse, just getting pushed in on. Can Reverse disengage this one? Can he have his 6th game, or is Class going to end it right here? Class needed a bit of a material refresh, but overall a very aggressive play, as I believe has Reverse launch padded off here. No, Reverse is still in here. Class is back in the box, not letting up, and Reverse goes down. He will not be happy about that one. A player that's used to that slow, steady, methodical gameplay, getting to end game, playing the low ground, just really getting through it, and he can't get through the mid game as Class makes a very, very aggressive play with those crash pads. We're just seeing it time and time again. Usually in the last meta, you had the drum gun, you had those items that gave you the ability to just W key and play so aggressive, but that was a mythic item. These crash pads, almost anyone can carry them, Sundown, and they're really showing their strength as people are just getting refresh after refresh and ending tournament after tournament with them.
And it's just so easy to do, to get in the box, to be able to execute on that. You get a drop on your opponent. Smacked, who was below the threshold from the Storm Surge, using his 2 stink grenades, still below it. Unfortunately, only able to convert that into 20 extra damage, still 11 below. 4 more players will need to drop. Storm Surge will end up coming into effect once that circle closes, so 25 seconds there. That's why you see Smack opting to get a little bit aggressive, because he knows he got tagged there. Lizard P does go down. That's Reloads, who's over on the side, and is also getting chosen by another player. So Smack trying to potentially set up for an alley-oop here by dropping him through the floor and then comboing with a shotgun. And there he goes, 67, gets the tag, as well as a white follow-up. That was 35 damage there. Can he close the gap? We're going to wait for the server to catch up a little bit. Smack continuing to try to put the pressure down, and he does. He gets himself out of the Storm Surge territory by just turning it off altogether. The elimination comes through onto Reloads, and that's a huge refresh for Smack.
And it's a 2-point swing again. He goes down. Apex Reloads goes down just before top 50. So that's 2 points he's just lost, or 1 point guaranteed without the elimination. And he was in 10th place. So as much as he's already qualified here today, Apex Reloads, our game 1 winner, struggled to keep up the pace. But that could have been a decent chunk of money that he's just lost in this game. So he is going to be frustrated even with that play there. And Miro at 48th point now. He's jumped up to 48 points, I believe. He's got 1 elimination, so he could have closed that gap with Skittles. They've got the same amount of placement points, the 2, 1 for top 75, 1 for 50, but if Skittles hasn't got an elimination, him and Miro are tied, and is Miro's tournament going to end in the sky? It does! Miro's tournament ends in the sky. Stacky takes him out just like that. Miro has fallen, so it is now Skittles, Who Fishy to try and hold on to this pace, or can someone like Kanata, Class, or Smack, as we saw, get a bunch of eliminations and jump up as Skittles made the rotate that Miro did not.
And Stacky's right around that line too. Anybody at 40 points now with Miro out of the lobby could effectively steal it away if they're able to get a victory route. However, all eyes on Who Fishy and Pure Skittles. That's 1 and 2, the leading horses in the race right now as we round the bend. We talked about the half in, half out being that signal for the transition into the late game, and it's going to start right now. Most of the players are already in it. The rotation will be used. Clicks also going down there. His run will end in the FNCS for now. We'll see him again in the heats, but eyes on Who Fishy. What can he do? He knows the pressure is on, currently sitting at 46 points. We had seen Miro get taken out there. We know Skittles is still up as well. We've yet to see him go down. The question is, who will convert?
Who will convert here? Is Who Fishy going to try finally jump up, have his moment? Is he going to overtake Skittles? As like you said, Miro has established himself as one of the best players here in these final rounds, and they are out. He has been the most consistent player out of all of these 3 across every single day. He has proven that he can do it, but 1 rotation, that's all it was. Who Fishy could hit his launch pad now and get taken out of the sky as well. You never know. That is why solos is so entertaining to watch, but can be so frustrating for these players as well, as they need to put it all together in this final game. Who Fishy has the launch pad, but those 4 floppers, they give you such an extra little bit of breathing room if you get held back in Storm, if a launch pad sends you the wrong way, if the caddy launcher comes out and gets you in Storm. You just have that ability to try and get your game back together, as he's well and truly above Storm Surge, just waiting here to see what rotation can he take off someone else, or is he going to use his 1 launch pad and make the rotate himself? Is he going to get feet on the ground or on builds and make this rotate and continue his push on 47 points, jumping into that 50 points? He's actually going to sit back and use the flopper. He's going to get that launch pad, go through 1 one flop or potentially two once he gets in, but he's held onto that launch pad. If this zone keeps going up and it goes on top of all those builds you can see, that launch pad is going to be instrumental. And I honestly think, Sundown, that was a very smart play, but no, it was a smart play until he boxed up on DGen's wall. He wasn't careful on who had it. DGen takes him down, and Skittles might be on his victory lap if he's still here and something doesn't go wrong very soon.
Keeping an eye on that top left corner. If Skittles doesn't go down and he takes over for the placement points, that'll be it. He'll walk away in the #1 spot, but we'll still have to finish the match out. You can see Joji picks up Roxa Canada on 39 points. Don't forget, Miro went down with 48. If anybody is able to pass that bar, that will be enough. Skittles was the closest, and we're still waiting to see his name. Canada goes down as well right as he throws the crash pad. Justice eats him up, has the pepper going in. Justice, keep an eye on that point total as well. He's on 20, right on that line for the top 50, but still have yet to see Skittles fall as we tick over into the top 30. That's another placement point going through, so keep an eye on that. Justice looking for an angle on the side as we still have plenty of players to go, and Justice finds Booga there, ending his run. Let's take a look on the wide. Where is Skittles? Where is he? Can he stay in? Smack looking to make a run for it as well, currently 42 points. If he could take the victory royale, Ozzy, he could look to make a push.
He could. Smack's class, they're still in this one. They can drop some big eliminations, even clicks. Can he have that big game we've been wanting for him all day to try and jump up and make something of this? Can Skittles hold on? Smack has 19 builds left, has good meds, has good shields, just needs maybe that material refresh to get through. He sees that crash pad. He's going to try and hit it. Nice mobility, but we've seen so many times these crash pads can be a gift or a curse if you drop into the wrong box or on the wrong wall, and he does. He makes the rotate. P-God takes down Cease, and Smack's looking to try and get that material refresh that he so sorely needs. 9 builds left will be not enough to survive 18 people. Skittles is still in this, not any eliminations, maybe just coasting through, getting those guaranteed placements. 8 to go down, and he'll get top 10, and then he'll start getting 1 placement for every player that goes down. Once a player in the lead, with as much of a lead as Skittles, he's going to have it if he gets top 10. He just needs to keep getting those placements and survive. As Smacked trying to make some plays, take them down the backside. Crumbler also taking down Panda, and Smacked gets his mat refresh, but only 25 builds. I don't think it's going to be enough, Sundown. He needs something else.
No, he needs eliminations. The fact that Skittles has not appeared in that elimination feed either way is actually going to be it. Pushing over into the top 15, there's no possible way they can close the gap. He had enough of the lead. Pure Skittles is going to walk away with qualifier #4 as again ticks down just inside the top 10, but it's going to be enough as Smack will continue his run 47. Nobody else is going to be able to catch him. I mean, Smack theoretically, with a miracle, taking down absolutely every player, but no builds, 3 elims left to his name. It would take quite literally everything, and I'm 99% sure Skittles is going to walk away with it, but Smack might have something to say about it. Gets the pick onto Redux, almost pushes himself into the top 5 as well. He needs every single one of those points. He can't go down here, or it's all said and done, and there it is. Smack goes down on the low ground, outside of the top 5. We'll finish it out, but Pure Skittles is walking away with qualifier #4. Furious up on the high ground. P-God, the Peruvian god, goes down to Money Mooney, who's had a brilliant backside and doing everything possible to guarantee himself his own shot at heats. Both Furious and Mooney will be representing, but the question is, who gets this dub? Ozzy, call it.
I don't know. Furious, I gotta think he's in zone now. Got the caddy launcher, goes up. Can he finish it in style though? Comes down with a shotgun, the aptly named Thunder Pump. It misses. He tries to follow up and he can't. Mooney takes him down, which could have been big points, and Furious may have lost out on big money from that. Mooney picking up 39, Furious going down on 44. He was around that top 10. There is a lot of money to give out up there.
Yeah, if he'd been able to convert, get the elim in the extra placement points, it could have pushed him up farther. But today, it's all about tasting the rainbow, and it's Pure Skittles walking away with the #1 spot in the final qualification opportunity from NA East. And he did it by making it into the end game, solidifying what his early game foundation looked like, and then having safe rotations. And that's all what Solos has been about, consistency into the late game. Well done from Skittles.
Yeah, we didn't see him in the feed at all there and made it tense because we didn't know where he was, but that was it. He was just rotating. He wasn't looking for those big eliminations. He knew he was in the lead, and you know that his eye was on the feed too. He saw the other players that were around him go down, like Fishy, like Miro. He knew that he just had to hold on. He didn't need to set the pace, and no one could catch up, and that's all she wrote for NA. That was their last chance to qualify. We're going to have to go through leaderboards and see who qualified, who made the money as well. Top 50 is what it's going to be. Thank you so much for having me. My name's Aussie Antics. Sundown, any last words?
Honestly, I just want to see what they have to say about it. Thank you so much, guys. Zeke, Monster, Shio, take us home, boys.
There you have it, gentlemen. Congratulations to Pure Skittles taking away the day. As Sundown said, gotta taste the rainbow, man. It's a beautiful rainbow. We've been making all these sun references all day, and here it is.
Hey,
I'm done.
at the end of the day, right, a big sunrise for Mooney, who I think actually qualified off of that win. He was not near, I think, 3 points down, so he got in, and then he finished with style. Really good for him. But the man of the hour has to be the guy who survived till the end, Skittles, who ends up actually taking over this entire round by storm, head-to-head against Fishy, head-to-head with Miro, but he's the man who came out on top silently.
Man, we kind of talked about this, right? We kind of set the stage before saying who are these players going head-to-head, and it was just slowly watching players fall there, and Skittles not even picking up an elimination in the last game, but as kind of Ozzy alluded to, just understanding what he had to do, playing for the placements and playing for that win, coming out as that #1 player.
It was just painful. It felt so painful watching Miro get taken out of the sky as he was trying to glide across. Smack falling in the end game. He had such a close run, almost a historical moment for Smack, who was on a tear. He was literally turning up. He dropped Skittles in those final moments. It was so close. Then, of course, Fishy. We predicted Fishy to do well. P-God, and, of course, Furious at the top of the show, all of which did exceptional. This is such a close tournament towards the top half of the NA East.
Most curious thing I see about this round of NA East is that there's only 2 victory royales in the top 10, Mooney with one of them, Miro with the other. Still, shoutouts to P-God, Joji, Stacky, and Class, who are still here too in that top 10. Look at the difference of eliminations overall. Class, Mooney, and Joji with subpar 10 eliminations, playing that placement heavy, and everyone else more than 10, more than 15. Kind of the same story for a lot of people, though, on the second page overall. Kanata over at 11th. Bank, Booga, Bucky, The Big Shark, Panda, NRG, Clicks, D-Gen, Apex, Reloads, and Vanish, D-Roller to round it out from 11th to 20th place. Tiebreakers around on average placement, and 2 more wins with Clicks and Reloads.
That's kind of how it's chopping up here. You can see it. Zeke is getting only closer and closer as we're kind of rounding out these final pages. That cutoff is getting there. If you didn't break into top 50, it's going to be pain all around, because I don't know if just making it this far one time around, Zeke, is enough to get you your series points. I'm pretty sure you needed several consistent days.
Yeah, I mean, even just kind of looking through on Twitter, I saw Punisher was just at the edge on the outside, I believe 52nd. So again, you know, we've kind of been talking about this whole storyline for the last 2 weeks. Is the top 50 that we pushed through to heats, and then there's 200 spots on the line for players that have accrued series points. Now, we still don't know what that list is, but stay tuned kind of to our socials later on in the week. And of course, next Friday, we will have those heats on deck. 23 points, though, being the new bar today. I mean, guys, NA East really brought it today.
That's the big thing for today. That was the story. It was not just a few players who were controlling the entire lobby, the entire top 100. For today, it was a bunch of people every single game, different people rising up at every POI and making it to endgame. Yes, we had our top 10 and they were consistent, but overall, everywhere else, I think that's the lowest I've ever seen someone with a Victory Royale actually place at the end of the day.
That's right. Well, gentlemen, that is it from us, Fortnite fam. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us for the last 2 weeks. Our players are locked in. This Friday, we go to heats, where the competition is only going to be that much harder. From there, the top 25 players will move on to Saturday and Sunday's grand finals. Please be with us next week as we get into this action. 3 days of Fortnite. You won't want to miss any of it. With that being said, that wraps up the broadcast. Any very quick final thoughts, Shy?
For me, 4 heats, 1 grand finals next weekend. It's going to get hot. I'm excited to wait for it. I'm excited to watch it. Monster, what about you?
Hey, man, it's VOD review time. We got a whole week in front of us. Big set of heats in front of that as well. I can't wait for the pre-shows. We're going to be setting up the stakes on who's battling, what's going to be going down where. The rosters are going to be dropped, and we're going to know exactly what head-to-heads, what clashes are coming. So the story's only going to rise from here. Let's get on the rocket ship and take it there.
That's right. Well, Fortnite fam, thanks again for hanging out. We hope you have an incredible rest of your day. Have a great week, and we'll see you guys next Friday for the heats. Till then, Fortnite fam, we'll see you guys on the Battle Bus.